from the Penn Libraries.
So I'm going to talk about SlideShark. Has anyone in here used this app before? Okay, so new to most folks. It's a relatively new app. They sort of describe themselves as it's a free app that you can use to carry your PowerPoint presentations with you. But what I think is really more powerful about it is that when you have them with you, you can plug it into a projector like I'm doing right now, and you can present from your iPad. Another feature, they recently added an iPhone app. So now, in addition to being able to present from my iPad, I can also control that presentation from my iPhone, basically just using it as a remote. So I'm actually using SlideShark to do my presentations. It's very meta, so we did the inception portion of Gadget Day. So the app it's a free app, but it's one of these freemium, I guess we're calling them now, services. So there are some premium features that you can pay a little bit of money for, and I'll show you a little bit about that. So why use a tool like this? Since you're here, I think you probably have some ideas about how you might want to use it. This is the kind of thing that we get asked about all the time here in the Commons. Faculty want to present from their iPads, staff want to do a presentation, go to a conference and not have to bring a laptop. Students want to give their presentations from their iPads. Increasingly, students are getting iPads. So this is just the kind of thing that is a really natural fit for us. So, you know, it's lightweight. It's the form factor of the iPad people want to carry it around. It sounds sort of superficial, but that's one of the things that we hear the most. You know, I don't want to lug my laptop around with me. I just want to have my iPad. You can go paperless, I say as I'm reading this from paper. I'm working on that part, but increasingly I'm trying to be a little bit more paperless. With the iPhone app, it's really nice. It keeps you from being tethered to the podium, so you can walk around the room, see if your students are looking at Facebook, you know, interact with people a little bit more. So SlideShark in particular is a really cool app, and one thing I like about it is it's in very active development. So as recently as March 26th, they rolled out a ton of new features. So it's really getting better all the time. They're really adding a lot to it. So everything I say now, they'll probably, any bugs I point out will probably be fixed in a couple of weeks, but it's just growing really fast right now, so that's pretty exciting. So I'm actually not going to be able to do a live demo for you today. SlideShark, the dashboard and the app itself won't project to the projector, only a presentation will show. So I can't actually show you as I'm going through the steps, so I apologize for that. I'm going to try to kind of recreate the experience with screenshots. And after I finish, I'll grab some of our iPads, and they all have this app installed if you want to start an account and play with it in the room today. So getting started, you do have to create an account. You create a free account, or you can upgrade to one of the premium plans. So I just put a little snapshot of what your options are. $50 a year, you get 500 megabytes, or $100 a year, you get a gigabyte. You actually get 100 megabytes of space for free on SlideShark. So in addition to being just sort of a vehicle to present from, you also get some cloud storage space. You can save your presentations there. You can also use it as kind of a publishing platform. So you can save your presentations in such a way that you can share them with other people afterwards. So if you're at a conference and you want people to be able to view your slides, you can use this as your publishing platform. And 100 megabytes will actually get you pretty far, so that's probably a few presentations. Yeah, did you have a question?
Are there any other features that the free version you don't have with that the premium versions do?
Yeah, the premium ones also have presentation tracking, so you can get some more information about who's looking at your presentation. And the most expensive plan also has broadcasting, so you can do a web conference with up to 10 people who are viewing the presentation. That feature is actually free right now. It's free through May 31st, so if you want to see how you like it, try it now, because it's going to be rolled into that 1 gigabyte plan, but right now it's free. So those are the extra things you get in addition to more storage. So how do you get your presentation onto SlideShark? SlideShark is not an editing platform at all. So I'll talk a little bit about some of the other apps that do what SlideShark does. It's really designed for you to create your whole presentation in PowerPoint and then upload it here and share it. You can't make changes to your presentation. You can hide or reorder your slides, but you can't edit it at all. So that's one thing to be aware of. So you've got a couple of options for actually getting your presentation there. The easiest way is to just upload it to your email and then send it to yourself. When you open that email on your iPad or iPhone, you'll see the option to open it in SlideShark. So that's a pretty simple way to get your stuff on there. This is a snapshot of the dashboard. And I just want to quickly show you one other way to import your files. There are actually connections to a bunch of other cloud services. So if you save something in Dropbox, you can easily import it here. They have these integrations that I haven't even heard of, Simplicity. So we have lots of, all the major players here. I'll just kind of walk you through some of the other features on the dashboard. So when you log in, all of your presentations show up here. You can download them to the device so that you can view them offline, which is a really nice feature of SlideShark that some of the other competitors don't have. If you have lots of presentations, you can star them, you can search through them to find your content. On the left-hand side, this one is the remote, the broadcasting, the cloud sync, and then your settings. So that's just kind of a brief overview of the dashboard. So what happens when you're actually presenting from SlideShark? So this is kind of, if I swipe up, actually I think I have a demonstration of, so this is how you look at your presentation, you know, swipe back and forth, swipe up to see all of your slides, pretty intuitive. So when I swipe up, these are the only options that I get. So I can autoplay it. They kind of tell you, you know, you can take it to a trade show or, you know, something like that if you're in a booth. You can autoplay, you can set up slide timings, you can loop it. This is also where you can hide or reorder the slides, but again, that's the only change that you can make to the presentation once it's uploaded. This is just so you can see what is on my phone right now, since I'm up here and you're down there. So this is what the remote control looks like. It doesn't have a lot to it. It just kind of tells you to swipe back and forth, which is a little bit different from some of the other options, which I'll talk about in just a minute. So the really cool thing is that if you looked at my iPad right now, you'd see that I'm actually running in presenter mode. So the same way that it works on a desktop or laptop, this is one of the really unique things about SlideShark is it has this presenter mode. So number one is my current slide. Number two, those are the timers. So I have a timer for the entire presentation and then one for how long I've been on one particular slide. I can see what slides I have coming up next. And then I can see my presenter notes, which is really awesome, a really great feature that sort of sets SlideShark apart from its other competitors. You can also tap and hold for a laser pointer, and I can do that either from my phone, which is kind of weird because I can't see what I'm going to tap on. But if I hold down my thumb, I can do a laser pointer. I can also do it on the screen here. So if I wasn't using my phone and I was just presenting from the iPad, I can do the same thing. Got a little delay. One of the really awesome things about SlideShark is it also has annotations, and this is another thing that we get asked about a lot. Faculty want to write on, we have a professor this semester who's using musical scores and he wants to just mark them up. Landscape architecture professor who wants to be able to show her students how she's drawing things. And you can't see this, in the bottom left corner, there's a little icon that I can tap for annotations, and I can basically just write on here. It will look a little bit better if I had a stylus, so I can do math or whatever. So this is something that I think is really cool. It's got a pen tool, there's a highlighter, and then just an eraser, and you can change the line width so I can make it a little bit more readable. So this is another one of the really big features, I think, of SlideShark that some of the other apps like it don't have. So let's talk a little bit about those other apps. So one that I've used before is Keynote. So this is really the other app that is the most similar to SlideShark. Keynote is basically the Apple version of PowerPoint. So they try to get you to use this tool. It's really great. It does cost money though, and in the app world, $9.99 is like really a lot. Our sense of value is different there. So the app itself costs $9.99. There's an iPhone remote like this, but that costs money too, 99 cents. So it costs money. The really key difference between Keynote and SlideShark is SlideShark tries really hard to preserve your fonts, preserve animations that you create in PowerPoint, preserve the formatting. If you've ever, made a presentation on your computer, then you present on a different computer, you've seen what can happen to formatting. I was at the Philadelphia Science Festival, and this neuroscientist was talking. He had these amazing slides, but I couldn't read half of them because the paragraphs were overlapping each other because he had obviously made it on a Mac and he was presenting on a PC. So SlideShark can help you to avoid that problem, which is annoying, but also can really affect your presentation and make it so your audience can't get your content. So Keynote doesn't do that. You really have to stick to standard fonts. There are only a handful of the master slides that work in the app. If you've used the desktop version is very pared down. It's much less robust. So a lot of what you can do, the fancy stuff, animations, they don't transfer over to the app, which is unfortunate. Some of the advantages, though, it does allow you to create presentations. You can edit your presentations in the Keynote app, so if you're working on something, you can work on it while you're on the train, or you can make last-minute changes to your presentation, whereas with SlideShark, you cannot do that. The thing that I really like about Keynote, and that makes me think I might keep using it, even though I'm pretty excited about SlideShark. On Keynote, the remote actually shows you your notes. So your presentation notes and the current slide are on the iPhone remote. So you can kind of just stand and look at it, which I think is an advantage. The iPad has my notes on it, but just having them on the remote, I think is cooler. One of the other tools that people use to present from an iPad, there's an app called Cloud On, and then other Microsoft Office apps, Quick Office, basically versions of PowerPoint that are optimized for the iPad. So you can run a slideshow from them. I say you can display slideshows, but you just don't get those extra features like the cloud space, the ability to share it. So it's just, you can do it, but it's not as good. I think a lot of those apps are pretty hard to use. They try to cram all the functionality of Microsoft Office onto a little tiny screen, which to me is annoying and hard to use. Cloud On and many of the other apps like it also require you to be connected to the internet to use them, so you can't run your presentation offline necessarily, which if you're going to a conference, you can't really rely on the Wi-Fi a lot of the time. When you're switching back and forth between a desktop and editing on Cloud On, your fonts and animations and images can get a little wonky. But again, the advantage of using an app like Cloud On is that you can edit and create presentations on the go. So this is my example of SlideShark is still in development. So the way that SlideShark tries to preserve your fonts sometimes gets a little wackadoodle. So this actually, I put SlideShark preserves your fonts in some of the wackiest fonts that I could find. And it didn't really know what to do with them. So when you try to run your presentation on a different computer from the one you created it on in PowerPoint, PowerPoint will try to replace that font with the next closest thing. So even if it kind of gets it wrong, you usually end up with something that's still readable. SlideShark works differently. It actually tries to trace around the letters and create shapes from your text, which most of the time works better because it creates something that looks like the way it's supposed to look. But if it can't read it, you get something that doesn't make any sense. So I thought that this was actually kind of cool looking, so I just wanted to share. It's not perfect. They're still ironing out the kinks a little bit, but for the most part, my experience with it was pretty good. So now I have I think about 10 minutes left. So I just wanted to open up to any questions.
I'm following Twitter, and we actually are getting questions back, which is very exciting. And one person has said sound is going in and out, so we can talk louder.
Okay.
Lots of excitement.
I will do that. Thank you.
So given the way that it tries to understand the font, what would your recommendations be about choosing fonts? Like it looks like maybe sans serif would be better, or blocky kinds of fonts. Or...
Yeah, the ones that I used here, there was one that had like a shadow on it, and then one that looked kind of like calculator. So it's not the kind of thing that you probably want to use in a professional presentation anyway. But even the top two, they don't actually look like that. It just tried to do the next best thing. And I was actually, this was a mistake. I was like, oh, it preserves your fonts. I'll make a slide that says that. And then I was like, wait, it didn't preserve my fonts. So I was surprised that it did that. But yeah, the two that it just doesn't render at all are kind of wacky. You probably wouldn't use those in your presentation. I was trying to break it. Any questions? Anyone in the internet space?
Actually, yeah, I'm surprised we're getting lots of tweets.
Great.
People are watching us from the vet library.
Oh, cool. All right, well, I didn't expect it surely, but
Should I go get some iPads for you?
sure, yeah. Yeah, we'll bring in the iPads if you want to play with the app. You can create a free account right from the app. So, yeah, I'll have that available for you.
Sorry, I have a question. So, in terms of compatibility, you said using your remote, you have an iPhone. Is it compatible with other like Droid phones, or does the remote have to be an iPhone?
No, it doesn't. It's only iOS right now. I didn't test to see if I could use just a regular presenter remote, just a generic non-phone. So that might work. But as of right now, the remote app is only for iPhone.
And how does that sync? How do you?
Sure, yeah, sorry, it's Bluetooth. I meant to mention that. It's a Bluetooth connection, which is actually really good because Keynote can do Bluetooth, but it works better if you're on Wi-Fi. And sometimes you can't be on Wi-Fi again, so the Bluetooth is actually good because it makes it a little bit more portable. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you'd seen that it's popular among trade show professionals and salespeople, and but have you seen students make use of this, or do you know of students making use of this in like particular courses, or?
No, I haven't heard of anyone using it yet. Anu, there was a surgeon at medicine who
So we heard
recommended
about this from a really amazing presentation, and on the Gadget page is a link to the surgeon's webpage. It's Kenrick Moriyama, and he is a heavy, incredibly powerful user of his iPad. And he basically presented using SlideShark, and he had evaluated a bunch of different apps and chose this one. And mainly he said, I think some of the things Caitlin's already mentioned, it kept his bullets. He liked to have bullets of certain shapes and maintain them. It kept the spacing of the slides the way he wanted, because he has different diagrams, and he spent a lot of time getting everything to look just right. And the SlideShark was better, having everything stay in the same place. And that was the first time we had heard of it.
Yeah, it's still pretty new. I've heard of students using Slide Rocket, which is similar, but I actually haven't met with any students who are using this tool yet.
Do you want me to, is there an account I should use to log in on SlideShow? Do we have a generic account?
No, I created an account, but you can use that. But yeah, I think it's still too new. It's really being marketed for sort of the business world. So I think.
Do you have any Linda videos on SlideShow?
I don't think so. I didn't check, but it's so new that I don't think that Linda has had time to discover it yet. And most of what you'll do is PowerPoint. It's really just kind of a vehicle for you to show your PowerPoint that you'll create.
Oh, so you mentioned some problem with the fonts. The foreign language font doesn't figure
Yeah, it's
it as long as PowerPoint on the PowerPoint.
right. If you can create it in PowerPoint, it's supposed to handle them pretty well.
Okay.
Yeah, I tested it a little bit, but that's one of the strengths. It's really close to deal with non-Roman characters.
So do you have any sense of what this company's like revenue model is going to be? Because it seems to me if it's free versus like the Apple product, you know, it may become popular among business users, but I'm just wondering, like, how are they going to, you know, maintain this service and offer it for free?
Yeah, I mean, they do have premium plans. This is also not the only thing that this company does. The company's called Brain Shark. They also do some kind of video, integrating video into presentations. That's their main project. So.
But nothing to do with Groove Shark.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I have to look into that. Yeah, I think it's Brain Shark.
Yeah.
So this is their newest project. So maybe they're still figuring that out. But yeah, they do have kind of premium, and you get 100 megabytes, which is a lot of space to us as consumers, but probably to them is not that much space, so they can handle the load. But yeah, that's a good question. I'm not really sure.
From the Penn Libraries.
My name is Charles Washington. I'm from GSCIT. My title, which is a mouthful, is Instructional Technology and Multimedia Service Coordinator. But as I was asked earlier, someone asked what I do, I press the right button. So I'm here to tell you about Swivel, which is branded as your personal cameraman. It's a fun toy. It's actually a great tool, and it helps me do my job a whole lot better and helps a lot of other people do their job as well. So what do? I shoot, edit, and post lectures, events, etc. I facilitate video and web conferencing. And I field requests for these services from faculty, staff, and students over at GSC, which amounts to almost 1,000 people. As you know, GSC is one of the smaller schools on campus, so there's only 2 of us that actually shoot. There's only so much that 2 people can shoot. That being said, one of my additional responsibilities is find new technologies that help people in this population work more efficiently. Speaking of which, one of the other person that shoots. My background is as a shooter. I've been doing it since I was in high school. And there's a few things that I've learned over the course of the time. First and foremost, we're part of what is called the YouTube generation. We see videos all the time. You see the selfie videos, the Chris Coker crying over Britney Spears. In our community, we talk about flipped classrooms and MOOCs. There's always an opportunity for video. Somebody has to shoot it. But as I mentioned, there's only so many events that can be attended by, in a day, in a week, in a month, by a small staff. And it's not really scalable to have a few people shooting all of these requests. So, and for example, in a room like this, if someone wanted to shoot, where would you put them? There's not always enough space to put a shooter. And one of the things that I actually had a personal discussion yesterday about, as well as with the owner of this company about. Sometimes people just get nervous when the cameras are on. You put a camera in somebody's face, and if they're doing it themselves, they're not as worried about it. But if you put a camera and a camera operator in front of them, they just freeze. Yeah. So there's our problem. So my question is, what if users could shoot self-managed video with the mobility of a camera operator, without the limitations of space or operator availability, and if possible, using their own mobile device? Oh, that was the bills. That's where Swivel comes in. Swivel is a toy that really found its way on my desk. It's branded as your personal cameraman inside. It's a fun device. I'm going to show it to you, but first I'm going to talk a little about it. That's everything that's in the box. I put a couple of extra things in here, but that's pretty much your box. What does Swivel do? Swivel gives you mobility. It gives a 360-degree rotation horizontal, plus a 30-degree vertical rotation. So wherever I go, Swivel will capture me. I'm going to put it on and turn it on while we're talking. It also gives you an additional function in that it hears a speaker. Not only does it have an infrared sensor that allows the device to track you, but it also functions as a wireless microphone. You can place it anywhere in the room. It's also tripod mount. The device, the tracker also functions as a remote control. So I don't have to go over to it and turn it on. I can control everything from wherever I'm at in the room. And some additional functionality it provides is you can choose your own resolution with it. If you want to shoot SD or HD, you have that option. And it works with a variety of devices. It works with most of your iOS devices, your iPhone 4, your iPhone 4S, Touch 4th generation. It works with iPhone 5, the iPad mini, and the new iPod Touch, only in landscape mode with the Lightning adapter. And I'll show you why in a moment. It also works with your pocket cameras. I have here the Kodak ZI-8 that we loan out to students over at GSA. And it does work with Android phones. However, with the pocket devices and the Android phones function currently loses a little bit of function. It loses the wireless microphone function. What can you use it for? Presentation capture. Over at GSA, we have a lot of teacher education students, and they have to do self-evaluations. They have to do evaluations with the principals in their schools, and they do group evaluations as well. So they shoot a lot of video. They can just take the Swivel out. What we loan them, we give them the Swivel, loan them the iPod Touch. They can go out, shoot their video, upload it to wherever, and have it up by the done within 5 minutes and then done shooting. It provides the opportunity for the flipped classroom. I mentioned the web and video conferencing. You can also, you don't have to use the Swivel with the swivel device because Swivel is actually not only the hardware, there's a software application as well as an app for your iDevice. You can also use it with your video conferencing apps, your collaboration resources like Adobe Connect, and I actually spoke with the representative of Swivel the other day, and he mentioned that they have a relationship currently with Torch, Iris Connect, and Sydney, which I didn't know what it was, but it's a professional development resource for teachers. As I mentioned, you can use it for lecture capture. You can also use it for distance learning. So, how does it work? Let's play with it. Pulled it out of the box already. Put it in fresh batteries now. Of course, because this is a demo and the fact that Swivel people decided to do an update last night, we can only hope that it's going to function. But let's give it a try. It's a motor with a sensor on it. On the bottom of the motor, there's a little adapter. You plug it into the bottom of your device. I'm going to use my phone, so excuse any apps that you see on it. My 2-year-old likes to specifically pull up things. I'm going to put it in front-facing mode. It's my preferred use of it. You can put it in all 4 positions: front-facing mode, portrait, front-facing portrait, landscape, and rear-facing portrait landscape. I like front-facing for 2 reasons. One, when you mount it, you can see what you're doing. You can see what you're shooting about yourself. And secondarily, and more important for me, file size, which I'm going to get to later. Now I plugged it in, opened up my phone, and you hit the camera button on the back of the iDevice. When I hold it for a second, you see it lights up. When it lights up, after a second, pops up on your iDevice, and that says, hey, I've recognized that you're connected to Swivel. Now, I've already downloaded the Swivel app just for a brevity of time, but the Swivel app, which is free, you can download it from the App Store. It recognizes immediately. Allow, and it opens up the Swivel app. And I'm just waiting for the camera. You know, right now, it's seeing you guys. But when I turn on the sensor, I'll come around and clip it to my jacket. It'll follow me. Now, let's take it to the next level. I hit the camera, and it'll start to record. You can do it with ours.
Yeah.
And it follows me wherever I go in the room, and it records both me and whatever conversation we're having. Brian, what you have for breakfast today?
I had a bagel with egg, with a nice fried egg on it.
What kind of bagel?
I don't know what it was. I think it was a plain bagel.
It's just that simple.
So how is it framing you in the picture?
Right now, I don't have it in tilt mode, and I'm within the 4 feet, but as long as I stay 4 feet away from the lens, it frames me right center frame. And as long as I maintain line of sight with the sensor. I'm ready. Of course.
I assume this plugs into the mains, this device, the base device.
It plugs into the device, and
yeah. And your phone is also being discharged in there. Yeah.
Well, currently we're running off the battery.
Yeah, but if it was plugged in, it would.
But there is an AC adapter that you can plug into the back of it, and it will maintain the charge of the device itself and your phone. The base runs off of AA batteries. The transmitter runs off of AAA batteries. Transmitter will keep its charge for 8 hours running time. Base will keep its charge running on battery for 6 hours. Excuse me. What else?
Is it downloading to the phone? Or it's just going through the phone?
It downloads directly to the phone.
So you have to make sure you have space.
You do have to make sure you have space. I cleared off all my pictures last night. I found out that 2 years of pictures.
So if you had like an hour lecture, you'd have to really. How long are you going to talk about? How long?
That's what I'm going to get to shortly. So, I've just shot. Now what? We're in our main screen. Oops. On the left-hand side, there's an option where you can access your videos. And we just shot. I click on the video. Gives me the option to delete it, to view it on the phone. Now my speakers don't work, so yeah, I put it back. You can save it to your photo, your camera roll on your phone. Or you, right now, the way it's set up, you can send it directly to YouTube from the phone. So we're going to do that right now. Share on YouTube.
So it compresses it to the right.
Yes, it does. It actually outputs the files H.264 with AAC audio. So if you're using Wowza, which I know a lot of people around here are, you can upload it directly to Wowza. I'm going to show you how to use it. Right now, we're just using the Wi-Fi app, part of the application where you can upload to YouTube. So give me 1 second, I'll show you that part.
Could you explain what Wowza is? Is it a sort of platform for?
Wowza is the video server that NVIDIA Network is running.
Oh, okay.
So I know that GSC is using that to host all of our videos, both the private and the public videos. I'm just going to log into my account using my personal account. I know I'm saying my password out loud to everyone listening out in the world.
Platform for video.
Is it something anybody can use, or do you have to?
No. Was it you have the option once you log in to retitle your video, to change the description of your video, and to decide whether the video that you're going to publish is public or private. So I'm going to make it public just because it's just us.
This
And
is
upload.
You're doing it in YouTube or
I'm doing it on YouTube
okay.
right here. And you watch that while I go into my YouTube account. And by the time I get there, it should be there. So you see it's uploading right now. And 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. So it's done there. So if I refresh, of course. But within moments, your video is up and available. See, there's our moments. It'll start to record. You can do it without this. And it follows me wherever I go in the room. And it records both me and whatever conversation we're having. Brian, what you have for breakfast today? What kind of bagel? So there we go.
Charles, is it tripod mountable?
It is tripod mountable.
Okay.
I brought the mini tripod, but I knew that that would be a little later in terms of its.
Because the angle of that is the thing that stands out there.
Exactly. But there's a screw port right on the bottom. Attaches. I also didn't want to obstruct the camera. You had asked about publishing to other resources. I had mentioned Wowza. As far as publishing, where did it?
There it is.
Thank you. You took my phone! You just connect your phone, and using iTunes, you can go in and go directly into your phone or your iDevice, and in your iTunes menu, under apps, the Swivel app will show up in the bottom menu, and it will list all the videos that you've recorded. You can decide which ones that you want to download, where you want to download them to, where you want to transfer them to. From there, once they're on your desktop, or if you're using Box or another resource, it's all available right there. Okay. It doesn't matter.
Charles, could you use this for live broadcasting?
Not in the Swivel app, but with other applications and other video resources you definitely have.
You could use the swivel to actually be moving your phone while another application running it is live broadcasting.
No, it's in apps. It's just not allowing me to scroll down.
Yeah.
Is that how you would? I saw he said you could use it with Skype. Is that what the way you described it? Is that
you can use it to be broadcasting him right now. We're live broadcasting, so Google Hangouts, right? We could be using one to
Exactly.
for example. But Skype would be also be great.
It'd just be recording what you're Skyping. Is that what you're?
It would depend on, I think, on how you have it.
Set up?
It doesn't want to let me go down.
Can you just click on one of the things on the side?
Well, you need to list the apps.
Click on one of the mini screens on the right hand side.
No, that's not the. There's a sub menu that's down here. You can see where it's abbreviated there. But there's a menu down there.
Okay.
And once you scroll down in that menu, it'll show up right as an available option. Now we're going to go back and discuss the file sizes. I mentioned that I prefer the front-facing option. The reason I prefer the front-facing option is because as Apple has improved the quality of the cameras on their iDevices, you run into, when you bring in more information, in your larger file size. With the iPod Touch 4th generation and the iPhone 4, you had a 480p camera for your front camera. And you had a 720p camera for your rear camera. When they upgraded and went to the iPhone 4S and the 5th generation iPod, they went to a 1080p. First they went 1080p 480. Then they went to 1080p 720. With the larger resolutions, you're going to run into larger file sizes. But if you stay with the front-facing camera, even with your iPhone 5 or your iPad mini or your iPod Touch 5, the largest file that you're going to output for an hour is 3 gigs. Which isn't great, but it's not bad for a decent image that's coming on.
Sorry, is this shooting in SD or HD?
This is shooting in nature.
Okay.
HD.
The question hasn't been asked, but I'll answer it. What about regular iPads? Not with this device. Technically, excuse me, one could attempt, thank you. One could attempt to use it. However, the motor in it is not built to handle anything over 11 ounces. That's why the iPad mini will work, but the regular iPad won't. However, I had a conversation, I mentioned I had a conversation with the people from the company. They have a newer device that's coming out this summer that will support larger devices, that will support Android devices natively with the wireless mic function. It will support full-size iPads. It will also support DSLR cameras. So we look to be getting that when it comes out. But right now, we're very happy with the swivel, and most of our clients have been happy with it too. And it's provided a little more opportunity for me to spend some time with the little ones as opposed to shooting something.
Can I ask, what does it cost?
$199.
And the newer version, you have any idea what's going to be the same price?
I can speculate, but I can't give a definite. But I expect a comparable cost, a little bit more, because it's going to be a bulkier device. It's going to have a little bit more functionality than the previous version. But I wouldn't expect it to go too far. What are your questions? Yes, ma'am.
Is it suitable for lecture capture?
Yeah.
Do you use it for real lecture, like live lecture capture?
Yeah, when we were recording over at JC, we were recording a series called the Racing Academy series, and we started using it for that. We also use it for the IES lecture series. As long as a clean line of sight is maintained, so when you have a larger group, you just have to make sure it's tripod mounted, because when people start moving and standing up and getting way up the device, then you might run into an issue. But generally, it's more than suitable. What else?
Do you have to wear the little bug? Is that a trick to get into poly, or is it also motion?
Yeah. No, it's you have to wear the bug.
Okay.
How easy are these questions?
What is your sense of like the lifespan of this device? You know, is this the first one that you've had, or?
Yeah, we actually acquired two when we first got them. We've been using them for the past year. And the only issues that I've ever encountered with them is when they do updates, specifically the firmware updates, because not the most recent iteration of it, but the previous iteration, the firmware update only did not work with iOS 6.1.3, but they resolved that within like 2 weeks. So they're very responsive. One of the owners of the company responds to most emails directly, because they've not gotten too big. I want to break that off. They've not gotten too big to the point where they're not responsive to their audience. And they have recognized that their niche going forward is for educational purposes. So it works well.
What size iPods do you loan out with it?
We loan out the 16 gigs. Mm-hmm. Just have to remind people to erase your stuff after you get done using it. But other than that, it's good. Yes, ma'am.
So I have a question.
Yes,
When
ma'am.
teachers take them out to the schools, does the reaction from the school personnel been pretty straightforward? Have they had any issues there?
They haven't mentioned any issues to me. I know that one instructor got a little afraid of it. Some robot in class.
Right. Yeah, that's what it's a little science fiction.
Yes, but eventually she was one of the people that left videos on camera, and I actually watched some of her footage, and over time you could watch her getting more and more comfortable. She was explaining what the device was to the children and the people that she was interacting with. Cool.
Thank
You. If you have any other questions, you can go to the Swivel site, or you can email us at GSCRT. It's gsc-help@list.edu.
So is this on loan?
It is. It's a loan resource.
Oh.
Yeah, we're gonna buy some for the library.
You are?
Now that we've been inspired.
Okay.
So we should add them to our lending program pretty soon.
Okay.
Yeah, I fell in love as soon as Charles sent us the link. Looks perfect.
All right.
Sure.
From the Penn Libraries.
I'm really excited to actually introduce Oliver. So Oliver's a freshman at Penn, and he came to meet us a few months ago.
Yep.
And we got very excited because we thought he was an incredibly facile user of technology. And he agreed to share with us his top apps. And he's actually also been providing workshops here.
Yes.
It's pretty exciting. So we're really happy to have a student perspective today. Let's turn it over to him.
Yeah, certainly. So I'm going to be presenting my two top apps for as a student for iPad. So I just got this recently, and for a while, like until I got it, I sort of was in the camp of couldn't really understand the benefit of an iPad. It seems like it's an over glorified huge iPod. But I mean, especially thanks to the App Store and the kind of the apps you can get for it, it's way more than that. There's some incredible things you can do with it. So I'm just going to be showing a few of those things today. So I'm going to start out with an app called Cam Scanner, which I have right here. So this is an app that lets your iPad be a scanner for using the device camera. So these are some documents that I already scanned. So I just did this one this morning. This is just a magazine that was sitting out there. So I scanned that. Well, actually, I should say this is your home screen. On your home screen, you have all of the your documents that you scanned, and you can also sort them by tags. You can attach tags to them. So this was some stuff from when we were discussing this event a few months ago that I scanned, and I have it sorted under my Apple tag. So you can sort things very, very easily, file things, keep track of stuff. And so I'll just demonstrate how it works. So if I can get out of this search window. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Actually, do you just mind if I borrow this for a second? Just for purposes of demonstration. So you have this little button at the bottom right here with the camera icon on it. You see? Or bottom middle, sorry. So you tap that, and this will bring up the camera on the device. So now I have the camera. So I'm just going to hold it over this document, take a picture of the document, click Done. And now it has it scanned. So it auto-detects the edges of the document for you so that you can take a picture, and then you click Next, and it will automatically crop it and distort it to be the right shape, it will distort it to a document shape. So now you've got this nice rectangular document. It will enhance it automatically, as you just saw there. Now you have it enhanced. If you need to adjust anything on it, you can adjust the balances here. And then you can save it. So now you have the scan right here. And you have the document in here. You can share it as a PDF. So you have this button over on the left here, the little share button. So you can tap that. That brings up a couple options for things you can do with the document. So you can email it to someone as either a PDF or a JPEG. You can also you can even fax it. So you can pay for fax credit on this device. I think it's 50 cents a page. And then you can fax things to a phone number, to a fax machine, directly from your iPad. So this is not just a thing to play Angry Birds. This is a fax machine and a scanner. And, I mean, so many other things. So now you can fax things from it. You can also open it in a variety of other apps. So, like, for example, I might open it in Dropbox if I want to save it and be able to share it, have it stored in the cloud. I could open it in Google Drive if I want to have it with all my other Google Docs. And then actually I can open it in Notability, which is the next app I'll show you, so I'll jump over to that later. But yeah, and then within this you can also write directly on it from the app. So you tap the little pen on the right there. You didn't see that. So it's right on the right-hand side of the screen here. You have the pen, and then you can write on the document directly in here if you need to. Although personally, I would prefer to use Notability for that, so I'll show you that in a moment. Another great feature is it has OCR on here. So it will recognize the text and make it searchable. So right on the right-hand side here, you have the OCR button. So you tap that, and it will scan all through the text, find all the text in the document, and now I can search this. So if I go back, now I have this document that I've run the OCR on. Go in here and I type Gadget. Didn't find it. That's annoying. Well, it did. It finds the other Gadget Day stuff. But yeah, I think that was not a great scheme. But anyway, you get the point. So I'll just jump over to Notability now, just to show you that. So I'll go from here. So you have the share button, of course. You have open in. Or actually, before I go to Notability, I'll say, does anyone have any questions on this app?
What was it called again? I'm sorry.
It's called CamScan. Oh, and it should be noted in terms of price. This one is actually free with the .edu email address, although it's $5 without, free with. But I mean, most of the people here, I suspect, have a PEN email address. So yeah, you have that.
I'll have a quick question.
Yeah.
Like if you were scanning a multi-page document,
Yes.
does it
yes.
keep all the pages together?
Yes, it does. Here, I'll just show you that. So if you want to scan a multi-page document, you just bring it the camera one scan, and then you just like, let's say this was like many pages of the same thing. Yeah, that's what I should have waited for it to focus. That's a much better scan. So now I have one page down at the bottom here, right here. Oh, I have it in the wrong orientation.
It's okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. So yeah, so you have one document right at the bottom there, and then if you have more pages, I mean, I don't have more pages, but we'll pretend this is another page. It will just keep them all right at the bottom there for you.
So you just don't close the camera.
Yeah, you don't close the camera. You just keep taking pictures until you're done, and then it will like run the scan and enhance things on all of them in sequence.
And then where do you name it?
You can go in right in here, and I can't remember. I think reprocess, and then you can crop it.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, also, as you can see, you can adjust the boundaries. If it doesn't quite auto-detect it correctly, like sometimes if you don't have a background that contrasts very clearly, it won't get it quite right, and then you can just adjust it.
Oh.
So that's very useful. Wow. It's a fantastic app. This is great. So anyway, I'll just jump over to Notability from here. So open it in Notability, PDF. So this is my favorite app for iPad, like overall. This takes into account every app that I have. So I'll just, actually this is a great feature which I'll talk about right now, later that I'm demonstrating, but even important things. So anyway, this is the home screen of Notability. On the left hand of the screen you have all of your notebooks sorted out by subject. So I have like ones for each subject. I have a general one for like just random notes that I have to take. I have one for Apple work. I have one that I just made called Home. So like to make a new notebook, you just tap the plus icon in the top left right here, and then it brings up this little box and you can name it. So I guess Gadget Day. I'll just name it. Actually, since I'm typing on fully here, great feature a lot of people don't know about that iPad has is if you're holding it, like you can't get to the whole keyboard, right? You just put your thumbs in the middle and drag apart, and now you have a thumb keyboard. on each side of the screen.
Oh,
Most people don't know about that, but it's one of the best features if you're going to be carrying your iPad around and typing on it. So anyway, so now I have this Gadget Day notebook that I just created. So I have a new notebook, and you can sort your notes that you have in a notebook by a variety of things. You can sort them by the name you gave it, by the date modified, the last date created, how big they are, like how many pages. There's a lot of sorting options. If you type things, you can also search within your notes, or search the title of the notes, or search within the content here. You have two options there. Personally, I prefer to handwrite my notes mostly, but it's up to you. So we're just going to create a new note here. So you tap this icon in the top right-hand side of the screen, and now you have a new note page. So first off, I'll just quickly name it. I'll call it Notability. So now you have that note name, so you can keep track of it. Oh, I already named something else, Notability. I'll call it Notability 2. There we go. Anyway, so now I have this note. I named it Notability. So for taking your notes in here, you have a couple of different options. So the first option I'll take a look at is text. So just tap that. The text is this little T up in the top middle of the screen. So you tap the T, and then you can start taking notes anywhere on the screen. So I'll just tap there. And now I can start taking notes, and I can just type random things. Quick brown box. You get the idea. So you can take notes, which is great. I mean, if you prefer to type, you can also use an external Bluetooth keyboard for that if you choose. If you prefer that to the on-screen keyboard, I mean, personally, I've actually gotten very good at touch typing on the on-screen keyboard, which when I first tried it, I thought would be impossible, but it actually isn't. It's actually very easy. So that's great. But another neat thing that you can do with the typing feature, which some of my eagle-eyed watchers might have noticed, is the recording. So at the top right, sort of right middle-ish of the screen, you see the little microphone icon. So you tap that, and then it starts recording whatever is being said by the internal microphone right here. So like if you're in a meeting or if you're in a lecture, it will record everything your professor or your boss is saying, so you're not going to miss anything. You can go back and listen to it. But I know I would miss things a lot. But anyway, what makes that feature even better is that if you're typing while you're recording, then when you click play, and then you can tap on a word, and it will jump to where in the recording you were when you typed that word. So the words are all synchronized to the recording. So to give you an example of how this might be useful, like I might use it in class where I'm taking notes by typing them, and if I miss something, I go back and I'm studying for finals like I am now, and I realize that I missed something or that I want to hear more about what the professor said on something, I can just tap on the word that I was saying at that time, and we'll skip to the recording what the professor was saying at that time. So I can hear exactly what was being said and that I did not take good notes on. And then, so it's basically insurance
Amazing.
for yourself.
That's great.
It's fantastic. So that's the typing feature. So I'll just jump back to do the writing feature, which is what I prefer to use most often, mainly because, I mean, I'm in like calculus classes and economics classes, so there's lots of drawing diagrams, drawing graphs and such, so that's just easier in the drawing feature. So you bring up the pen, you have the pen icon in the top middle of the screen. You can also change the color of the pen if you want to. Like I like to color code my notes in math. I'll write theorems in red so they're easy to find. I'll write examples in blue so that they're easy to find. So you can just tap the pen icon again, and it brings up this menu. So you can change the size of the pen, or you can change the color to any of these 16 different colors. You have a lot of options for coloration. So that's one thing you can do. I'll just change it back to black. So then you can just write with your finger or with a stylus. I had a stylus for a while, and then I lost it because I'm forgetful. But I can't say the same for you. So if you do, then I think the bamboo stylus is best. But I lost mine. Anyway, so you can see that it's sort of tricky to write compactly and neatly, just like open on the screen, because obviously you're writing on a whole page and you need to it's just tricky. So one of the greatest features of Notability is these two buttons down at the bottom right-hand side of the screen here. So first off, you see the little hand icon. So you tap on that, and then it brings up this little hand rest. So you can change the size of it by dragging on the 3 bars. And then this part of the screen is off. So you can just touch here, you can rest your hand here, and you're not going to mess anything up. So if you're like, for example, like me right now, if I want to be able to write, I can rest my hand on my iPad while writing on it, and I'm not going to screw anything up. So the other great thing here is the zoom box. So you tap the little magnifying glass icon right here, and then it brings up this box right here. And now you can change the size of it, but basically whatever is within this box is magnified up to this on the bottom of the screen, so you can write more neatly. So I usually leave it at the maximum size just because I like to have as much space as possible, but it's up to you. So I'll just erase this. Ugly and not neat. That's another great thing is the eraser, so that if you make a mistake on a problem set, the professor never has to know. Not saying I use that, but maybe I do. Anyway, yeah, so now you have this zoom box and you can write here. So now it's much easier to write like neatly and small. Even when you're using your finger, I've gotten pretty good at it. But anyway, the quick brown box, you know, such and such. So, I mean, you can use that if you're like taking notes, you want to use your space better. Another great thing is like, you might think, how do you advance it? Because obviously you move it around the screen. It's this little green box. So as you're going along, scribble, 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 and you ran out of space, it jumps over automatically for you. So once you hit the green box, it detects that, it jumps over, bad name tag, and it jumps over automatically for you to give you more space, which is great. And it also will auto-detect where you stopped writing before. So obviously you can see it stopped where the end of my writing was. And it does that regardless, so people never advance too far. People just ignore that thing for now. And then when you get to the edge of the page, like I have here, when it returns, it will auto-return for you. So we'll go to the next line even, which is also very nice, obviously. So I'll just get that out of the way. Another great thing you can do here, the fifth icon on that little top row, is the scissors. So this allows you to select a word. I'll just select brown. And then if you want to move it somewhere else, you can move it around the page. You can also copy it if you want to repeat something several times over, which I'll do sometimes if I'm like making lists of things. If you're going back through your notes later and you realize that you color-coded something incorrectly, or if you want to reorganize things, you tap the word and then you tap style, and it brings up the same color coding thing you saw before with the pen. So you can change the pen size, you can change the color of the word, any number of things to just help you stay more organized. You can also obviously delete it, I guess, if you want to. I already have one word, one brown on here. I don't need to. But anyway, so that's the 5 icons at the top. The last really useful thing that you can see here on this page is the little share button up in the top left. So I know quite often I'll have like friends come to me and be like, oh, I missed this lecture, or I think I didn't take great notes on this, or what did your professor say about this? And can I have your notes? And I mean, usually that's like, oh, you have to give them your notes, and they have to take it and copy it, blah, 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 blah. I tap right here on the top left. It brings up this menu of services like Dropbox and Google Drive and such that I can put it on. Or I can just email it to them. So I can just tap email, bring up PDF, email notes, processes them into a PDF, and there we go. Now we're ready to go, and I just type in their email and send it, and it's gone. And it's already done. So it's all extremely fluid, extremely easy to do. That's why this is my favorite app, obviously. Another thing that's great for studying that I found is the ability to import PDFs into it. So a lot of times professors will, say, publish their notes or their slides the day before lecture online. And I mean, I always hated having to write down what was on their slides, because if it's already on their slides, why should they need to write it again? But I don't need to do that anymore. So, for example, I've been importing all of my econ professors' lectures in here, and I have a lecture here, and when I'm studying them, I can go through and I can highlight things that are very important. But obviously, the definition of perfect competition is important for econ, so I'll go through that and highlight it. So I know that I need to look at that especially closely. If it's during class, I can go through here and I can have his slides up right here on the device in front of me, so that when he's going through them, I can annotate them, take notes directly on the slide, so that I don't miss anything, but I also don't have to write what he's already written, which saves me time and helps me pay attention to him. The other thing you can do with that is, especially like now, all the professors are publishing practice finals and midterms on their sites. So, for example, math, I brought in a practice midterm here, not just a blank page, it's actually a midterm. And so I have the problems and the whole thing on here, and then I can just do the whole set right on the device. I don't need to get extra paper, I don't need to print this out or anything. I can do it all here, and I have it all on the device, even right next to the book, because like she published a few chapters of the book that we were using for this section on our Blackboard site. So I just bring in the book. And now I have the book here. I could even take notes in the book if I wanted to, write in the book. And I have the whole book right here, right alongside all of my notes from class, and right alongside her practice midterms as well. So that's all it's all together and it's all there for you. What else is cool here? Does anyone have any questions?
Can it OCR?
OCR on your handwritten notes? No, but you can search what you've typed, obviously.
Okay.
I mean, I guess.
So if you imported something, you could use it as search.
Yeah, you can. You could search stuff. So like, just to give an example, in a note up here, yeah, this one. So I brought in for an email that she sent out describing what we needed to know from these certain chapters, and I could search that if I wanted to find something specific on that email. Anything that's typed, you can search and such.
As a collaborative tool, how would this work? If someone creates a note, they send it to someone else. Is that person able to import it and edit it, to the same note, or what would the process be?
I don't think you can export so that they could go in and erase what you had written, but if you wanted to say export a note that you had taken as a PDF, then they could import it into this app themselves, and then they could write on it and take notes on your notes. And then you could obviously you could send it back and forth that way if you wanted to.
Does it connect to Evernote?
Yeah, well, it doesn't. It's not directly connected to Evernote. Evernote has their own handwriting app called Penultimate, which I know some people prefer. Personally, I prefer this one because it allows me to write more neatly and closer, so I can take more efficient notes. But you can share stuff to Evernote, so it might not be. Yeah. Oh wait, no. There we go. Open another app, and yeah, I'm pretty sure you can open it in Evernote. Okay. And you made me think of something else I was going to say. Something related to penultimate or notability or something.
The thing that I'm amazed by is there's a device that people are using on campus, $150. It does exactly what you just showed. Called the Live Scribe pen.
Oh yes, I have seen that.
Pretty much exactly what the Live Scribe pen does.
Yeah, it is very similar. I mean, personally, I like this because then I don't need to have any paper whatsoever, and this app's $2, which is a lot less than $150. For $2, this app is a screaming bargain, in my opinion. So it's really fantastic. I'd love to see more people using it because I know a lot of people on this campus have iPads, but a lot of them don't use them for sort of productive applications that they could be. I have 8 more minutes, so if nobody has any other questions, or
this one might be a little more complicated than the last one, but can it be used on the phone as well, or just iPad?
Notability is just for iPads, although
the writing.
Yeah, it's the writing. I mean, writing on an iPhone would be kind of annoying.
Yeah.
You can share things to Dropbox or something, a variety of applications that you can use on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's your documents aren't locked into your iPad. You can send them to your computer. You can send them to your phone if you want to be able to look at your notes mobily. I don't know when you can edit them within the Notability app on your phone. But yeah.
How much is a stylus, and can you use it on anything like that?
The bamboo stylus is the one I think is the best. Amazon fluctuates between 18 and 19 on Amazon. and it's very good. It's made of very high quality materials. It's made out of aluminum and steel, so it's very high quality thing. It's just obviously it can be lost if you're good at losing things like I am. But yeah, and it can be used on any device with a capacitive touchscreen. So that's going to be basically any touchscreen phone, any tablet, any touchscreen computer. They'll all be that same sort of touchscreen. It can even most computers, most laptop touchpads are the same way now. I know all MacBooks are, and I'm pretty sure ThinkPads are, and I mean most of them are. So you could even like. Another application that I thought of for it is like if you had to electronically sign a document, you could sign on your touchpad and like put it right into the document from there.
When you share it in Google Drive, is it a PDF?
You can share it. I'm pretty sure you can share it as either a JPEG or a PDF.
So couldn't that be with the collaborative thing that you could like put it into Google Drive and then collaboratively edit it?
Yeah, actually, in fact, I hadn't noticed this before, but yeah, it looks like you can share things as a notability note on Google Drive. So I guess the answer to, was it your question, is actually yes, you can share things as a note, and then people can go into their Google Drive and open it from there, and then they can edit it.
And notes, what kind of file? I don't know. Is that like a...
That's a good question. I mean, whatever Notability's file type is, it's not a Word doc for sure. It's probably some sort of unique file type that they like made for the app.
If they have Notability, they can just open it from their Google Drive.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, obviously, of course, it's not hard to share it as multiple formats if you had to. So you could definitely share like a few copies if that was what became necessary. Yeah. Yeah, I guess just to take note of a few other neat things you can do with this app that might be valuable to some people. If you want to be able to have like paper, like lined paper, you tap on the little wrench up at the top right, and then you tap on paper, and then you can have a variety of different kinds of like grid paper at all different widths. You can have line paper at all different widths. You do even have this background. Don't really know why you would want purple polka dots for your notes, but you know, it's to each his own. No judgment here. Yeah. So obviously you can do that. Another great thing you can do. I prefer no lines, but anyway. Another neat thing you can do is if like there's a picture, if there's like something on the board that you don't want to have to write down, or just like you want to take a picture of something, you can take a photo and then import it into your notes from directly within the app. So you tap the plus icon, tap take a photo, and then it opens up your camera right in the corner of the app there. So I can just take a picture of all you view, and then I can bring it right into the app, right into my notes. I'll insert it, and then I can even put a caption on it if I want to, right at the bottom there. Everybody see that? So, yeah, you can put a caption on it. Oh no. Okay, there we go. Yeah. And then obviously you can get rid of it if you want to. So, yeah. Move it around. Yeah.
What type of keyboard do you recommend?
That's a good question. I don't have an external keyboard actually. I mean, it's just like whichever one you want, I guess. Just like, it depends widely on your price point and like what level of portability you want. I mean, cost no object. I think I would probably have the Apple Bluetooth keyboard that they ship with like the iMacs because it's very small and very thin and very nice to use, but it is like $70 or $80. So obviously, there's a lot of different options from like all the different case makers, Logitech, such and such. They're like much cheaper in like the $30 range. That would work pretty much the same way.
From the Penn Libraries.
Thanks everybody for coming out for the Google Hangout talk and for Gadget Day. Really appreciate you being here. I'm glad to be presenting after coming here for the past couple of years for these events. My name's Chris Martin. I've done extensive work with Google Hangouts, mostly because of my role here as IT and Multimedia Manager for the Kelly Writers House and the Writing Program here in the School of Arts and Sciences. So we use Google Hangouts quite a bit for our Coursera course to kind of reach out to our students and provide some live content to them. So Google Hangouts, it's a great tool to have at your disposal. It's free. It's pretty easy to use. It's the whole premise is you can do video chatting and collaboration with others. There's two different tiers to it as well. There's a Google Hangout, which is kind of a few of you can get together in an online space and talk and video chat and do that. And then there's also an additional piece to that, an additional component called On Air. So you can enable your Google Hangout to actually broadcast via YouTube and via a live embed code that you can put onto your website or wherever you would like. So I just want to make that distinction now that there are two levels to it. So there's a few great use cases and scenarios for this. For one case, if you just want to catch up with friends and family, you can see how happy they are using the service. This is a stock photo. I don't know this people. This is a more serious photo I was trying to find, and this guy looks super professional, so I thought I'd include him in the presentation. So you can do group collaboration, you can do work on projects together, and there's actually the ability to work in real time on Google Drive documents, which is really cool. I'll get into that in a little bit. Another case is if a faculty member wants to do open office hours or discussion or meet with students outside of class time. That can be done virtually. And this is a screenshot from one of the Google Hangouts we did during our Coursera course, in which we broadcasted to all of our students. We had over 30,000 students enrolled, so this was kind of a good way to actually reach out to them. And this is one of the cases where we use the on-air functionality. So we didn't want it to be a closed-in meeting. We wanted it to be available to everybody via YouTube and a video embed on our website. And then another case kind of goes along with what I was just talking about, just a general webcast to the world of any event that you might want to get out there. There's never been such a robust, easy-to-use, free platform quite like Google Hangouts. And you see here Obama actually used Google Hangouts to deliver an informal speech and talk with some people, of the general population, and that was just last year, which is cool, which is pretty cool. So there's a few prerequisites to the service. You need a Google Plus account, and you need to add each other. If you have a Google Plus account, you have what are called circles, and that's where you can put other people you're friends with. You can connect with friends, acquaintances, and put them into your group of people you know. So if you're going to do a hangout, both yourself and the person that you want to hang out with have to acknowledge each other on Google Plus and add one another to one of your Google circles. There's a lot of good documentation on that process. If I'm not making sense on a Google Pen, makes sense of it. You also need the Google Talk plugin. For it to work, it'll prompt you to install that when you go to start a Hangout, so it's not too major of a step. If you want to use it, you can use Google Hangouts on iPads, iPhones, and Android phones. So if you're going to use it, you'll want to have that. If you're going to be broadcasting on air, you have to be 18 or older. If you're going to be broadcasting on air, you also need to connect it with your YouTube account. It'll prompt you to do that when you go to do an on-air presentation. And you also need proper hardware. So, like I said, work on any iOS device, any Android phone for the most part. You need either a desktop or laptop. It'll work on either of those types of computers. You can work on iPod Touch. You need a USB webcam, the built-in camera, microphone, and a good internet connection, all very important to the process. So we'll talk about kind of how you actually go about doing a Hangout. And then we'll get into kind of some of the cool additional features you can take advantage of once you're in a Hangout. So when you log into your Google Plus account after you've created it, which is very easy to do, you can even convert an existing regular Google account to a Google Plus account very easily. Just the click of a button, basically. So on the sidebar, you'll have all your Google Plus account options. Near the bottom, sometimes you've got to click on the little more thing button. But in this case, my resolution was good enough, so you can see the Hangout button. There, you click on that, that brings you to this page. You can get more information on what a Hangout is, etc. But the thing we're most interested in is starting a Hangout, which is that red button at the top. You click on that, you get brought to the Start a Hangout screen within a couple seconds of loading. You can name your Hangout, and then you can add different people from your circles, or you can even send email addresses to invite people into your Hangout. And then I'm still trying to figure out why there's two spots to name the Hangout. I haven't figured that one out yet. You can also bring in somebody via telephone, which is kind of interesting. For 2013, it's a newish feature, and it's free to do for US and Canadian phone numbers. And then here's the option to enable Hangouts on air, and that's what gives you the opportunity to broadcast your Hangout to the world. So once you establish these parameters, you can hit Hangout. It'll bring up a screen with your image first and foremost. On the left side, it'll have your toolbar of Google Hangout add-ons, which I'll get into in a little bit. They're really cool. When you bring in virtual participants, they line up down here in boxes, and you can see everybody else who is part of your Hangout. But the thing we're most interested in right now is actually some of the functionality that's in the top right. That's where you establish your settings. You can end your Hangout from there. You can establish which webcam you want to use if you have more than one webcam hooked up. You can establish your audio source. You can mute your microphone, mute your video feed, and it'll also show you the level at which your audio is coming through. Now, if you decided to enable the on-air functionality so that it's public to the world, there's the red button up there that says Start Broadcast, and there's also the ability to embed this video. So we'll look at that a little bit more closely. I guess I should have brought this up a minute ago. So once you hit Start Broadcast, it'll post in a couple seconds. It'll tell you when you go live. But most importantly, when you click on this little embed link, it'll pop up with a URL to your YouTube page where the video can be viewed at in real time. And then it also gives you an HTML embed code, which you can copy and paste into a web page or post into somewhere else that you want it to be a viewable video. Okay, cool. So you remember a few slides ago I talked about, or I mentioned how there's some neat add-ons that you can utilize within the Google Hangout, which really make it even more valuable of a tool. Here's a couple of them, and we'll get into some of them more specifically. You can establish a chat by, that's the first option up here under Invite People. You can bring up a little chat box on the right. Now that's just for people internal to the Google Hangout. So it's not for the whole world to give feedback to your video if you're broadcasting it. It's strictly just if you in the Hangout want to send some notes back and forth or copy and paste text. So you can also do screen sharing, which is pretty cool. So anybody in the Hangout can share what's ever on their computer screen, or they can specify an application if they want to show you just what's in their Microsoft Word document, for instance. You have the option to bring that up so that everybody can see what you're talking about, or whatever you have to say, which is really good if you want to broadcast like a PowerPoint presentation or show like a Word document to some, either somebody you're in the Hangout with or somebody out there in the world. This next one's a little goofy. It's called effects. Google will actually, Google Hangouts will actually be able to put different things on your face and different sounds, and it will actually follow your face around. So you can embarrass yourself in any number of peculiar ways, as you can see here. This is just a few of them. I've never used this one in a professional setting before, but I'm sure if you got creative or maybe for Halloween or something if you were doing this. Who knows? But just that's kind of a fun one. You can also, one of the add-ons is that you can import a YouTube video into your broadcast as well. So everybody in the broadcast simultaneously can watch a YouTube clip, and that can also be broadcasted out to the world if you're doing an on-air broadcast, which is a pretty useful functionality. And one of the coolest things is the fact that you can work on Google Drive documents, spreadsheets, and such simultaneously in real time. So if you have, this is kind of a collaborative portion of Google Hangouts functionality. You can have 4 people all logged into Google Drive and be looking at the same document and be hacking away at different parts of it, or making modifications as necessary, which is really cool for students, really cool for anybody working on a project. So at the end of the Hangout, you just click the little Hangout button to close it out, and if you're on air, you can hit End Broadcast, and that kind of puts the kibosh on it. And then the really cool thing about when you're doing an on-air broadcast is that it's streaming to YouTube the whole time. As we mentioned, there's a YouTube link where you can watch your stream, but it's also really awesome because YouTube will record the actual Hangout. So you can go to YouTube and then it will appear in your YouTube channel. And it's also interesting, wherever you had embedded that, if you use the embed code anywhere, that video will switch automatically from the live stream of the broadcast into the recording of it. So that's kind of a cool functionality. But if you go to your YouTube, you can go to your video manager, and you can see all the broadcasts and Google Hangouts you've done. And just as a reminder, that's just if you're broadcasting on air. If you're not broadcasting on air, it's just within your circle of people. So in this case, I have my test Hangout there. There's some cool edits that you can also make. You can title and put a description on there, and that's how it'll appear on your YouTube page. But a couple of my favorite things are the ability to auto-fix the brightness and contrast of the video. You can actually do that. And my most favorite feature is the ability to trim. So if you start a video and there's a couple minutes of dead air in the beginning before your event gets started, or at the end it's running for a few extra seconds, you can actually use the trim functionality to cut off the beginning and end, and make it a nice program with no extra content before or after. One thing we were doing with, if anybody's interested in doing live broadcasts of events, there wasn't really a good solution built into Google Hangouts to do like a multi-camera type of shoot, but it is possible. And I was able to do this actually just last week. You need third-party software, however, which is free and available, but it's not built into the Google Hangout. But if you're interested in that, I can definitely talk to you more about it. So some of the benefits: it's free, it's easy, works across multiple devices. The collaborative capabilities are great. There's a number of add-ons, as you saw. The YouTube broadcasts say they can handle unlimited number of viewers, which is just awesome, because to have that functionality just a year or two ago was a lot of money. And then the recording is just excellent to have. I use it so much. The opposite of benefits, for lack of a better title. Some things, it only really, Google Hangouts natively only really supports USB webcams and built-in webcams on your laptops or your iPads. They're working on more functionality, and we were testing this out a little bit with Google Text last week, and it didn't really work, but it's getting there. Hopefully soon. You can use one of those other third-party programs to kind of help bridge that gap, but it should be better hopefully in the near future. All this stuff is changing so quick as it develops. The quality of the broadcast, I've noticed, is kind of iffy sometimes. It could be better. I feel like they kick down the bandwidth a little bit on you. Which drives me crazy, but we'll see. The Google Plus app, I've had hit or miss success with it. I'm going to try and demo it in a minute if I have a minute to test it. But that's hit or miss. And then the lack of embed code and YouTube URL before you start the Hangout. That's kind of the big one, because you can't really embed it until you start it. So you kind of got to give yourself a few minutes of buffer time to do that. So those are some of the notable negatives I found with the platform. But overall, it's been absolutely terrific. And I can give a demo of how you would actually do it if everybody's up for it. Are there any questions in the meantime?
I was wondering, so I've seen that you have like one person on the screen when you're doing the broadcast, but then you can switch to another person. Who controls that? And
It's a good question. So if you have multiple people on a webcast, here's a good example. I'll go to the serious guy. If I can find him. Yeah. Yeah. So all these virtual participants lined up down here by default. The main screen is controlled by whoever's speaking. So whoever's making the most noise, basically, will get the main screen. However, if you're the person who started the Hangout, you actually can override that, and you can manually click on the individual boxes. And once you click once, it's kind of thrown into manual mode, and it only changes when you select.
so multiple people can talk at the same time while just keeping one.
Right. Yeah, and that's actually typically what I do when we're doing like a broadcast and we have multiple people. I'll manually select the person who gets the big screen. Good question. Anybody else?
If someone doesn't have video, can they be on there just listening and like microphoning, like talking?
Like somebody who you want somebody to participate, just audio only?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that too. Yeah, you don't necessarily need the visual aspect to it, and you can bring in people over the phone as well. I think in place of your video, they'll put just like your profile picture, your Google Plus account profile picture on the screen by default. But yeah, you can do that too. So,
Does somebody have like more, I guess, admin, privileges over others? Like if somebody came in and was causing grief as part of your Google Hangout, could you give them the boot?
That's a good question. I've never had to give anybody the boot, so I've never tested that functionality out. Good question though. I mean, it's kind of limited in the fact that you can only join the Hangout if you're part of somebody's circle, so you mutually acknowledge that you're on friendly terms. Usually.
There's no mute button.
Actually, okay, all right, you can do that. You can mute somebody's video or their audio, and you can actually, there's a new setting that they just released this week where by default somebody can either have their video and audio enabled when they join, or by default it's disabled. And you as the meeting organizer have that control. So I guess you can just click off there.
So you do have, someone is in charge, like a...
Yeah, you do have some controls. I just wasn't sure about the boot part.
And how many people?
Go ahead.
How many people maximum?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't say that. So you can have up to yourself and then 9 virtual participants at a single time. So I've never tried it with 9, but that is the limit. Presumably it functions still. So we've only done a few at max at a particular time. So.
The on-air just automatically goes to YouTube, so you have no way of looking at it before it hits YouTube?
Well, what happens is you can start the Hangout before you start the broadcast. So you can give yourself some buffer time before you actually go live per se.
But back to what he was saying, if you didn't like what was said, it's on YouTube.
Like you couldn't like live censor something, or that's what you're getting at.
Well, but it's not like it's a saved file and then it goes there. It's like live. I mean, it's,
right.
Yeah.
It's like as it's happening, it's viewable. Once it's on there, you don't really have any control over.
And what did you say? If you embed it, it automatically starts something?
All right. So if you take your Hangout and you take the embed code and paste it into your website so that somebody can go to your web page and watch it from there, it'll be the live stream as the event is occurring. But then once the event is over and you end your broadcast, that player that you embedded will automatically turn into the recording of it, so somebody could go after the fact and play it back.
Is a regular hangout recorded?
Not a regular Hangout.
Yeah, regular.
I don't think so.
Then that would resolve.
Yeah.
Later posted.
Although you can keep your YouTube channel private, right?
Yeah, that's true. And
Do
you
you have
want
a choice before you get started in the on air to make it private?
you can't really make it private. I guess the best solution would be you wouldn't have to distribute the URL to anybody or embed it anywhere. And that way,
Say that again?
like you could not advertise where you're broadcasting it to. Like, for instance, if you wanted everybody to see it, you would probably embed it in your web page or send out the URL as it was about to happen. But if you didn't want anybody to be able to get to it, they wouldn't really know how to get to it unless they had that information.
Because it's there just by the title. What is it? How would you? Are there keywords or something to find the YouTube video?
To find it, I think the only way you could possibly find it would be if you were in Google Plus, and then Google Plus might say on your newsfeed, like, your friend in your circle is doing a Hangout right now.
Also be controlled a little.
So you could still find it that way, but that would be a lot more limited than, like, for instance, we only put people, like, we only have a couple people in our Google circles for our Coursera account. So, like, there's only a couple people who know it's happening. You know, we're only friends with a couple people. That would, like, me and our TAs are the only people who can see it in Google Plus. So if you don't, friend everybody on Google Plus and then you don't advertise where you're broadcasting it to, then it's probably pretty difficult to gain access to. I don't want to say impossible, but
It's out there, but difficult to get to.
yeah. Unless, there's exceptions, I guess. Unless you're following the YouTube channel, then maybe it'll work. Yeah, that gets messy. I never thought of it in that context.
Right.
Yeah, in that case, it might make more sense to, like, do a recording off air with another piece of software and then just upload it.
Do you know if the Penn Google accounts are going to have the Google Plus capabilities or no?
I can chime in if you want.
Sure.
IC is in control of UPenn.edu. It is in discussion.
Okay.
So,
Because if you wanted to do this for class, I could see privacy problems.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things going on, especially HIPAA compliance, things like that. A lot of documents in the design. But it is on board.
Interesting. Yeah. So are they able to lock down, like, you can have a Google Plus account but not have access to Hangouts, Stephen? Like, can they?
I'm not sure if there's an explicit declare there, but there is the ability to lock down specific applications within the account.
Right.
So it may be
possible. Well, cool. I think I'm out of time for the most part. I wanted to give a live demo, but hopefully that got the point across and you know what it's capable of. Certainly, if you have any more questions, I'm glad to answer them or give you my information. However you want to work it. So, thanks a lot.
Okay, take care.
From the Penn Libraries.
Okay. So I am going to get my devices out there. Let me just introduce myself. My name is Ted Moscow. I'm from Client Services Group. at Technology Support Services, which is a subsidiary of Information Systems and Computing. So today, my agenda is to kind of give you an idea of what devices are the latest and greatest out there. I'm going to talk a little bit about mobile device adoption, both within the US and across campus. What trends you should look for, what kind of devices really are the ones to get right now, and what you should look for when you're looking for a phone or a tablet. Then I'll go into smartphones and tablets individually, and we'll talk about some software recommendations for all of you. So this is a list of devices that I have today. I'm going to start spreading them out, and Vern's going to pass them out for me as we get to the relevant pages. So give me just a minute. And if you can take a look at this list, and if there's something that you really want to try out, just grab it when you see it passed around the room.
And say you think that's right.
It'd be nice if you could leave it after that.
That's why Vern's your easy enforcer, actually.
State inventory.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to take a picture.
That's all of it. We can figure the rest out later. Okay, so first we're going to talk a little bit about adoption. We're going to go into the US first because that kind of gives you a really good indicator of where tablets and smartphones are across the marketplace. Right now we're at 55% roughly smartphone adoption within the US, and there was actually an IDC article published late last night that says smartphones have officially outsold feature phones for the last quarter, which means that we're now at that point where it's the tipping point. We imagine that everybody else that doesn't have a smartphone yet is going to get one soon. Android activations have reached 1.5 million a day, which is a great feat, and I think there are over a billion total activations. Very impressive numbers. But as you all know, iPhone is out there. iPhone is one of the leaders, actually it is the leader of a single phone compared to all the other Android or BlackBerry, any other devices that you're talking about. So it won't come out as well as I was hoping it would. But you can kind of see right here, this graph shows that Android really put its game up out there and increased very rapidly. iOS has continued to increase, and BlackBerry really died down. This is results from 2012. We really start talking about that. And the distribution of Android devices versus iOS devices based on income. Interesting numbers. Android devices have been considered the lesser expensive device, so you'll see a little bit more adoption of Android devices at the lower end of the spectrum, whereas iOS is 47% with incomes of 100,000 or greater. So it's a pretty clear separation, but Android devices, the flagship devices in particular, are getting much better and they're much more competitive at that higher spectrum now. And on this side, we're looking at the OS shipments, both for tablets and market share breakdown of tablets. iOS is doing very well, as they always have been. And after that, Android, Windows, and then others. And BlackBerry is still really struggling, but I'll get into that a little bit later. And by the way, please interrupt me with any questions. I tend to talk a lot, and I don't know what you guys really care about, but it'd be really good for that kind of feedback. So, the wireless connections at Penn, they have been a steady increase. We're now nearing 2.0 devices per person. Now, the way that we got these numbers is we measured the number of Penn keys that are authenticated on AirPenNet, and then we counted the number of total devices on AirPenNet. So that's how we're getting close to 2 per person. And there's a lot of bets as to where this actually will level off. Some are at 3, some are at 2.5, and a lot of people have apparently lost their bets if they didn't think it would even get this high. The breakdown of the devices actually connecting to AirPenNet, we have all of the devices, including smartphones, tablets, and PCs. You can see that right now, if you look at Android, BlackBerry, and iOS, we're over 50% of the total devices connecting to AirPenNet, with iOS being the greatest majority just because that combines both the iPads, which are huge hits, and iPhones, which as well are pretty big. And this is actual breakdown of smartphones and tablets. And still, you can see iOS is just a clear leader in this space. So we actually have statistics from one of the schools at Penn. And we can see that the numbers are really reflected exactly the same way as we saw in the wireless numbers. iOS at around 70% and Android at around 25%. And ownership of smartphones. Now this is particular smartphones, this is not tablets. We have 90% of undergraduates and 98% of graduate or professionals. So huge, huge adoption of these devices.
Is it a fairly representative school that you're following statistics for?
Yeah, I would say so. It's one of the larger ones. So now, what to look for if you're actually shopping for a device, whether you've had one before or you're about to get one for the first time. I'm just going to give you a couple of ideas. Realistically, hardware has leveled off, and they really hit that sweet spot of really comfortable device, really high-end internal specs. You don't really even have to think about what kind of processor you need, how much RAM, how much internal space, unless you have a lot of MP3s or a lot of videos that you're going to be downloading to the device. And there's definitely a lot of devices to choose from. As you can see, they're out there. The form factor innovation has really subsided. There's a couple of differences, primarily the HTC One, which just puts speakers on the front rather than on the back, which I'm a huge fan of. You're going to see a little bit, tiny nuances between the devices and their bells and whistles. So what kind of camera they have, what the megapixel rate is, how good they take pictures, and the audio arrangement, like I mentioned, and what kind of buttons you're going to be looking at. So with the iPhone, you just have the home button, the power button, and volume rockers. With other devices, you might not have a hardware home button, but you're going to have a software home button, passive touch. I will demonstrate that in a bit. And also, you might have a different arrangement of buttons. With Android, there's more than you can count. There's some that just have a back button and a home button, others that just have a home button and a menu button, and then there's some that have all three, and that's the one thing that isn't consistent across the devices. Just to give you an idea of what kind of devices we're going to be talking about and how we classify them, smartphones are really the devices that are under 5 inches. The Galaxy S4 is 4.99 inches, and they picked that number specifically because they wanted to stay under that 5-inch range. Because when you get into the 5 to 7-inch range, that's when you're looking at phablets. Unfortunately, I do not have a phablet to demonstrate today, but that's those devices that almost look like they could be a tablet. When you hold them up to your face, it's a little bit awkward. I don't have a phablet. I don't think I'll ever use a phablet, but we might get one just to demo at some point. And also small tablets. Unfortunately, there is a phone that is a small tablet, and that's the Galaxy Note 8. So we have the Galaxy Note 8, but not the phone version, because the phone version is not sold in the US. Not much of a surprise, I guess. And then there's tablets, anything over that's over 9 inches, and that's the iPad. So this is to scale. I actually picked out these devices because they are considered the greatest in each of those different categories. The iPhone 5, the Galaxy S4, that's the LG Optimus G Pro, which is going to be on sale, I believe, starting May 1st. The Galaxy Note 8 and the iPad 3, iPad 4, iPad Retina, they're all the same size. So first we're going to get into smartphones, and this is what I'm going to call you to pass out those devices. Apple iPhone, huge hit. As everybody knows, it is just stellar. Between the camera, the specs, the way it holds in your hand, it just works. Apple has sold a ton of these, and there's no stopping them. WWDC is coming up in June. I'm excited because I get to go this year. And we don't know if we're going to see a new phone, but there's a lot of rumors that there's going to be an iPhone 5S and maybe a lower tier iPhone, which is going to be just a slightly lower spec. They're trying to get into the category of lower cost device. In addition to that, there's also potentially going to be some sort of wearable technology coming from Apple, primarily the iWatch, but the rumors have not been confirmed yet, and there's a lot of rumors. There's a lot of designer uploads of what they could look like, what they could do, but the leaks have not been coming just yet. Android phones are all over the board. There are so many different types of sizes and shapes and feels to the devices. The Galaxy S3 has been a huge hit, especially for Samsung. That's what's actually putting Samsung at the top of the list for manufacturer shipments. They recently released the Galaxy S4, which is essentially the same phone as the Galaxy S3, except with a huge spec bump. And really what they've focused on is software with this particular revision, because they feel that they have hit the nail on the head with the hardware that they released. You'll feel that the device has more of a plastic feel to it, which doesn't appeal to everyone, but it has been pretty widely adopted because it reduces the weight of the device. It also potentially reduces the cost of the device. Sorry, one of those is activated with my SIM, so you might get some.
Oh, okay.
No, you can feel free to take a look. The other device that we are passing around is the HTC One, which is one of my favorite phones right now. It's a full aluminum body, just like the iPhone 5. It's got a nice feel to it. That's one of those that kind of shifted away from the norm with Android devices. They dropped down the megapixel quality of the camera. They dropped it down to 4 megapixels, but they called it the Ultra Pixel. Realistically, the Ultra Pixel doesn't really mean much. It's a marketing gimmick, but they were right about how low light conditions are better with those larger pixels, small or lower megapixel count cameras. I've tested it out, and it's my go-to phone for cameras for taking pictures right now, because it just works across the board regardless of the lighting conditions. The Galaxy S4, on the other hand, went with a 13 megapixel camera. The megapixel race is still going on in their minds, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what the adoption rate is of the HTC One and the Galaxy S4, and maybe we'll get an indicator of what megapixels actually mean, how much people actually care about those high megapixel rates. The other device that we're handing out is the Nexus 4, which is Google's branded clean Android experience. And you'll notice that that one has no buttons on the bottom. It's built right into the screen. So you have those capacitive touch, but they can disappear buttons. If you're watching a video, it'll go full screen. You won't see those home, back, or app switcher button at all, which is the way that Google wanted it to be with all the devices, but the manufacturers have kind of held back with that original, let's keep the home button or the back button or the menu button on their devices. And all the way to the left is the Sony Xperia Z. Still not available in the US, but it should be here sometime by mid-May. What really makes this device an exciting device is the fact that it's hardened, meaning that it's waterproof, dust-proof. It's a little bit more shatter-resistant. They've really upped the game on the hardware side of things. Now I have a feeling that other manufacturers will start doing the same thing, because when you're using your phone, you put it in places like your pocket that way back when the iPhones actually were triggered by sweat, the water indicators. This device has no problems with that. You can wash it with water and it won't be damaged. It will continue to run. They actually have been dunking these phones in huge tanks of water, and they run them, and they run for hours without stopping. They're just not affected by it, which is unbelievable. So I'd like to see that come to other manufacturers as well. So Android, in the early days, kind of upsetting, but they really have matured. Right now we're on revision 4.2, which is called Jelly Bean. Keyline Pi should be announced in mid-May at Google I/O, and we're expecting great things, but we're not sure if it's going to be a phone OS or a tablet OS or both. And Google has gone back and forth between doing just a phone OS or a tablet OS, such as Honeycomb, which was only for tablets. Next, let's talk a little bit about BlackBerry. They are no longer called RIM. They have rebranded themselves as BlackBerry, and they released two phones, the Z10 and the Q10. The Z10 we do have here today. It's a full touch screen device. Does not have a physical keyboard, and it's a first for the BlackBerry 10 OS. It's the first device to come out with that OS, and it has helped them slow their decline. They sold 1 million units overseas. I believe it was in the UK within the first couple of months. So there is adoption of it, but the reality is that the Q10 is the device that everybody wants to get because it has that physical keyboard that everybody has loved that has come from in the past. And we expect that to come sometime in mid-May. I just heard from our Verizon rep earlier today that it's going to be available early May, but no promises. So that probably means there's going to be a pre-order period before you can actually get your hands on it.
Are there other manufacturers still using physical keyboards much? Is there evidence that people other than BlackBerry users want them?
So there's a lot of evidence that people want them, but not very many have tried it. BlackBerry, way back when, perfected that keyboard. They perfected the thumb keyboard, so they know what they're doing when it comes to that kind of stuff. The only thumb keyboard that was out was for Android, which was the Motorola Pro, the Droid Pro, but they stopped manufacturing that, so at this point there's no solid device that has a thumb keyboard on it. And next, Windows Phone. They have yet to really catch on to the market. They have, I believe it's 1% market share, it's up to 3%. It's such a low adoption rate of these phones, and today we have the Nokia Lumia 900 and the 920. The 920 is the flagship device. It's the one that's black. The 900 is blue. So the one thing that I do have to hand to Nokia is that they figured out how to make these really beautifully colored plastics for the backs of their phones that have this premium feel to them, which is exciting, but hasn't caught on, unfortunately. A lot of forums that I've been reading have been saying we really wish Nokia would release an Android phone because the hardware is just perfect. But the software, not so much. People are not really adopting Windows as much as Android and iOS. But that's not to say that Windows Phone is not a great OS. I really like it. If you're a huge Microsoft fan, if you have Windows at home, if you have an Xbox, if you have a tablet, it might make sense for you to get a Windows Phone. That's a very personal opinion. Next, tablets. Going to go into iPads, and we have both the Mini and the iPad 3. So the Mini sales have been very impressive, and Apple had their conference call, it was earlier this week, at which point Tim Cook was telling everybody about the sales and the adoption of the iPad Mini and the iPad. They continue to grow, and it's just an excellent product. Sorry if that's my phone. So the Apple ecosystem is something that a lot of people have bought into. The App Store is huge. I think it's over $1 billion paid out to developers. They were the first at the game, and for that reason, they are doing very well. We don't know what to expect with new iPads just yet, but there have been a couple of leaks of a new iPad Mini coming out, as well as a new iPad that has a slightly thinner frame. And I think they're just going to continue to exceed our expectations. I hope they do. Android small tablets. We have the Nexus 7 and we have the Note 8. The Samsung Note 8 comes with a stylus that isn't the typical stylus that you might be used to with the resistive touch screens from way back when. The stylus that comes in the Note 8 by the bottom right corner, if you pull it out, you can actually kind of hover with it over the screen, and it'll show you where the pointer is, and it won't do anything until you touch the screen with the stylus. So it's a really interesting way that Samsung has implemented the Wacom technology into their devices. And the Galaxy S4 has taken from that and now lets you kind of use your finger to wave above the screen, and it'll hover until you touch the screen and you'll open up that app. So they are continuing to do very interesting and innovative things with that technology. Android tablets. So tablets, this means 10-inch tablets. We have the Galaxy, I'm sorry, not the Galaxy, that's the Nexus 10 in the middle. and that was, again, the clean experience that Google wanted to have on the Nexus devices. You'll see down at the bottom there's two circles. Just click on the right circle, and that will let you log in with the other user account. I did forget to mention that with Jelly Bean, which is 4.2 Android, there is user switching, which is a huge deal, I think. I don't know if Apple is going to be releasing something like this, but there has been a lot of pent-up demand for being able to switch devices between people and having a profile on the device. The Nexus 10 has done that, as well as the Asus Transformer, which is down in the bottom left. We have the Asus Transformer Prime, which is a slightly older device. The newest one that came out is the Infinity, which looks very similar. It's a little bit thinner, a little bit faster, just a spec bump really. But the idea behind it is, you can use this latch, disconnect it, and then you have a tablet you can carry around, or you can plug in the keyboard. The keyboard doubles as a battery, so you can extend your battery life to about 16 hours according to their estimates. And it's one of the greatest devices I've seen that has a nice keyboard built into it and runs Android. And all the way in the top right is the Amazon Kindle. It's the Kindle Fire 9 HD, or 8.9 HD. So the Kindle Fire series runs Android as well, except they run their own skin of Android, so you don't get the full Android experience. They've completely removed the Play Store. They have the Amazon App Store, and it works exactly the same way. It's just that you buy the apps through Amazon instead of through Google. You can also get the App Store on Android devices. If you go to Amazon.com, it's like /App Store. You can download the APK. They walk you through the steps, and then you can actually download your apps through Amazon as well. The perk behind that is Amazon has a free app every day. Amazon has a free app every day, so it makes sense for you to try it out if you have an Android device. Sometimes they really need apps. Like I got SwiftKey for free, which now costs $5 or $4 for the app. They constantly have games on there for free, and they have a lot of connectivity apps as well. And finally, Windows tablets. We have 3 Windows tablets with us today. We have both of the Surfaces, which is the Surface RT and the Surface Pro. For those of you who don't know, Surface RT is a slimmed-down version of Windows 8. It does not run the typical Windows application that you might be used to. The developers actually developed specifically for the RT. And there has not been a huge adoption of the Windows 8 RT platform. Samsung has actually officially announced that they will not be releasing other RT devices. The Surface Pro, on the other hand, runs the full version of Windows. I'm sorry. So the password for the RT devices is Chestnut3650, capital C. The Surface Pro runs a full version of Windows, so you can actually run Windows apps on it. It actually has an Intel processor on it. And by far, my favorite is the ThinkPad Tablet 2. The neat thing about this is it has the stylus hidden right on the side. It's not as expensive as the Surfaces, which run at around $1,000. This one's closer to $800. And this one runs an Atom processor, so it runs Intel hardware, which means you can run a full version of Windows. You don't have to get stuck with the RT version.
You said it's your favorite one. Why?
It's my favorite Windows 8 tablet. Because it runs Intel, so you do have Windows 8. It's one of the thinnest and lightest ones. It's thinner and lighter than the RT, but it has that full version. So any questions so far about anything I've talked about? I know I've gone through a lot of information. No? Good. Okay. Next, we're going to go into software and security. So this is slightly different from what I've talked about before, where it was just hardware, a little bit of software. We're just going to talk about what's out there, such as Facebook Home. You've probably heard about it. Facebook released the Facebook Home software, which can run on any Android device. They also updated all their Facebook apps, regardless of your platform. They now have chat heads, which lets you it's just like Facebook Messenger on your device, except you have these little bubbles for every person you can talk to. Oh, I should specify, Facebook Home is available on select devices. The Galaxy S3, Galaxy S4, the Note 2, I believe the Nexus 4, and then maybe there's one other one. But there are workarounds to actually get it installed on any device for anybody who's advanced with smartphone technology. But I tried it out. I wasn't a huge fan, but there is something to it, especially if you are a huge Facebook user, because it puts you right into the Facebook world. As soon as you unlock your device, it takes you right to the news feed. The news feed shows up right on your lock screen. You can swipe through news feed articles, and then you can click on them to like them, or click on comment to open the comment feed, and then you can unlock your device to actually use the apps that are installed on it. The HTC First, which was released at the same time as Facebook Home, is a lower tier device released by HTC specifically for Facebook, but you can remove Facebook Home from the device if you don't want to use it. So you do get a very nice stock Android experience on that device, and it's been getting really good reviews. Next, we'll go on to human interface. And what I mean by human interface is Siri, Google Now, and voice, essentially personal assistants on smartphones and tablets. Siri was released by Apple, and it's supposed to be a personal assistant, and they've done a very good job with that technology. You can talk to Siri, say, remind me to do something at 5 o'clock. So when I was working on this presentation, I said, remind me to add this slide for Siri at 7 p.m. And then at 7 p.m., I get an alert. It says, do you want me to remind you to add this slide to the presentation? You can make it do whatever you want. You can also have the location fences. So when you are next to like the grocery store, you can have it remind you, buy eggs and milk, something like that. Siri is very powerful. Google Now, on the other hand, just as powerful, but for different purposes. Google Now is very good for doing searches. So if you ask Google Now a question, it can give you the answer, but it generally treats it as a web search. You can also have Google Now direct you to navigation. So if you do a search in Google Maps, regardless if it's on a desktop, laptop, or smartphone, Google Now then gets the information of which location you search for, and it will give you a technical term for it, I'm sorry, a little bar that says, if you would like me to, I can set up navigation to go to that location. All you have to do is hit navigate. It'll take you there. Google Now is being spread out to all the other devices that support Chrome. And supposedly, this is just a rumor, Google.com will have some sort of Google Now implementation on it. They may be getting rid of iGoogle and replacing it with Google Now. Very interesting idea. The other thing that Google is doing is, this is relevant to the Hangouts discussion, is they will be releasing something called Babel. We're not too sure exactly what it's going to be just yet, but Babel is going to be an all-in-one, I guess, chat or video chat or communications platform. So you can use Google Babel to replace Google Talk, Google Plus, Gmail, and Google Voice. So Google Voice is specifically for texting. And they're going to be doing something with it, but we're not too sure just yet. Google, I hope will have more information on that. So next, we're going to go into keyboards. By default, on the iOS platform, you get the iPhone keyboard, which cannot be changed, but you can change the language on it. There are some hacks to let you change the keyboard that you're using on your device, but the typical keyboard is the tap-tap-tap keyboard. It has auto-correction built into it, it has auto-spacing, it has double-tap spacebar for a period, it has those neat features that make tapping a little bit easier on a touchscreen, whereas BlackBerry just has the QWERTY keyboard you can type. The Android, on the other hand, has a very similar stock keyboard, but they also introduced something called Swipe. Swipe was a company that released tracing keyboards. And what that means is, instead of tapping each letter that you want to type in, you tap on the first letter, and then you slide your finger across the rest of the letters that make up the word that you want to type. So if you want to type problem, you start at P, go to R-O-B-L-E-M, and it puts the word in there for you. Without lifting your finger, you can swipe in the whole word. SwiftKey then took that same idea and they took it a little bit further, and they released something called SwiftKey Flow. Now, the benefit of SwiftKey Flow is you can do the same thing, you can swipe, but you can swipe through the space bar, which means that you can type out a whole sentence without having to lift your finger. Very interesting technology. It's one of my favorite ways to do data entry on a device. It really speeds things up quite a bit.
Yeah, I used our Nexus 7, which is going around, which is a great device. Just for I've been an iOS person for a long time. Really wanted to get used to Android. Used it for 2 weeks. I loved it. But the thing I missed still for those 2 weeks, I think last December, I missed swiping on my iPhone. I still want to be swiping on it's that good.
So next we're going to go into security. Please, 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 no matter what device you have, put a pin on it. These devices don't count because they are demos. If you get a device, you probably will lose it at some point. If you put a pin on it, it really will put your mind at ease. On top of that, if you have an iOS device, get Find My iPhone. It's free. You can register with iCloud. If you lose your device, you will be able to find it. You can set off an alarm. You can use GPS to locate it. There's a couple of things you can do that will help you find your device if you lost it. On the Android world, Lookout is the go-to app for finding your lost devices. You do have to install it before you lose the device, or else it won't help you out. That used to not be the case when you can actually install something that was called Plan B, which would install remotely to your device. But since Google has updated their requirements, that's no longer possible. In addition to Lookout, there's also another one called Service, which lets you have up to 5 devices. I think it's just a one-time fee. Lookout, I believe, is a $2 a month fee, but I think you can track multiple devices on that service as well. So sync and backup. This is a huge deal because if you do lose your device, you don't want to lose all your private data. The easiest way to handle this type of situation is to make sure that you have all of the data that's on your device stored somewhere else, such as the cloud. I'm a big Google user, so all of my stuff is located on Google Drive, on Gmail, I use GChat, and that just means if I lose my device, I'm not actually losing any of my Google data. I use Penbox a lot. This is a plug for David, who's going to be talking about Penbox in a few minutes. Penbox is a great place for you to store stuff in 50 gigabytes of space. So I store all of my files. I'm actually presenting this presentation right through Google Docs. Dave's going to talk about that a lot more. And if you have an iOS device, you can use iCloud. You can synchronize your photos. There's PhotoStream. And with Android devices, there are similar services that will let you synchronize your photos. Do you know Fox does that? Is that feature enabled?
I don't believe so. I'd have to double check.
So there are ways to actually synchronize your photos, but we can get into that a little bit later. And also, I use Chrome as my default browser. The really neat thing about that is it lets you synchronize your bookmarks, your passwords, your auto login information, any form information that you have. You can synchronize it across all of your devices. And I find that to be very convenient because I can pick up any of my phones or any of my laptop, my desktop. Doesn't matter where I am. I'm going to get the same browser experience, and get the same bookmarks, and I'll be logged into the sites that I need to. So, on to questions. Well, the devices are up. You guys can feel free to grab anything you want to take a look at. And now we're into the Gadget playtime. You guys can grab whatever you want and ask me any questions. I'll stick around for the next half hour. Thank you. Two other things we forgot to pass out. This is the Dell XPS 12. It's a 12-inch laptop with a touchscreen, and the neat thing about it is it has this convertible tablet screen, so you can turn it around and use it as just a tablet. Pass that around as well. And this is the Samsung ProBook. It's the Series 3, so it runs a slightly lower-end processor. And you'll feel it's a very light device. I believe it only has 8 gigs of internal storage. So it's supposed to be just a cloud device, really, and that's what the Chromebooks are made for. So
This is a Chromebook.
yes.
Quick question. Sure. And I was just, it all kind of happened at once, so I kind of got blurred. But with the Surface devices, at what level can they go full Windows 8?
So there's two versions of Windows 8 out there. There's RT and then there's Windows 8. So Windows 8 Pro, Windows 8 Home Premium, and you really do have to separate the two worlds. The RT only will be able to run RT. It just doesn't have the internal hardware to run the Windows 8 Pro version. Whereas the other Surface, the Surface Pro, has internal components that run the full version of Windows 8. So they have an Intel processor or some sort of other full desktop or laptop processor. The two devices that we have here are the Surface Pro, which is Intel, and the ThinkPad tablet, just right there. And those two both run full version of Windows.
And does the ThinkPad one have a keyboard type scenario with that?
Yeah, I think there's an accessory you can buy. There's a keyboard dock. Yeah, it's an add-on. But the keyboards for the Surfaces are also add-ons. There's a tactile feedback. So when you type on it, you hear a click, but it's actually just a completely flat keyboard. And then there's the real keyboard for it. And I believe this one is $100 and the other keyboard is $150.
I just want to see.
From the Penn Libraries.
Sounds good to me. All right. Hi guys. My name is Dave Tenney. I'm from ISC Networking and Telecommunications. I am one of the support staff for Box. I hope everyone has a Box account, and if they don't, they should create one immediately. You can go to upenn.box.com, create an account. It's auto provisioned, so all you have to do is hit the continue button. You get 50 gig. We just upped it recently from the 20 gig. You get that for free. Raise of hands, who has a Box account? Great. All right. So somebody pass him a device. So he Great. That works too. It's a great application. It's very similar to Dropbox, as some people have already asked me. It does provide a collaboration suite built on top of that, as well as some security and policies that Penn has signed directly with them and Internet too. So it's just a better option all around for us. What I'm going to talk about today is pretty much, there we go, connection types, how to actually get connected to Box, authentication methods. The reason why we're going to talk about this in particular is because a lot of users go to a mobile application, they assume that because it says it supports Box, immediately out of the box is just going to work. There's some caveats to that. Some prep work, specifically related to collaboration with users and the mobile application itself. We're going to talk about Box mobile application, both on the iPad and the Android tablets. I did not do any screenshots for the iPhone or any of the Android smartphones, but you get the gist. The tablets are easier to see. We're going to talk about two document editing software, CloudOn and Polaris Office. CloudOn is a free product for both Android and iPhone. Polaris Office is a free product for Google Play Store. It costs around $13 in iTunes Store. Connection types. There are actually two different types of connection types outside of just going to the standard website. We have what's called third-party applications and direct connection applications. Third-party applications require, excuse me, require you to turn on the communication between the Box platform and the application itself. So specifically speaking, all Box applications, when you download them on the phone, have to be turned on via the platform. They are all turned on by default, but some of the ones that currently Penn are reviewing are not enabled by default. One in particular is Google Apps. If you've ever downloaded Google Apps, you can actually connect your Box account to Google Apps. That is currently not enabled, but it is being reviewed. Uses the Box API, so it uses API keys, so it keeps your credentials clean, and it also supports single sign-on process. So you never actually pass credentials through the application to the Box platform. The other way of getting connected is called direct connection. You actually have to set up what's called an external password within the Box account in order to get connected to those applications. Requires a little bit more information, specifically if you're going to try to use an application that wants to use the WebDAM or Web App Share or FTPS to be able to get connected to that. FTPS is only enabled for enterprise accounts and is not enabled for Box Lite accounts. Box Lite accounts are the commercial version, the free commercial version. So if you have an account that's not UPenn oriented, that's what you have. So there are actually some limitations in that. So again, get an account. You can go to upenn.edu, Computing Box Apps, to view all the applications that are currently enabled. And if you don't see one that you like and you want it enabled, you can make a request there via a form and have the Box third-party application team do that for you. There are two authentication methods to connecting to Box. As I mentioned before, the single sign-on process, which when you go to upenn.box.com, it's actually box.upenn.edu is a forward for that as well, so it can be slightly confusing. But you can go and get connected to that via your single sign-on process. What's nice about that is it gives you sort of a feel that you've been there before because it uses the web login process. If you used that before, you'll see the same screen. It actually uses those credentials that if you've already signed in via another application that you've used for single sign-on process, it'll immediately just drop you right into the box. So it makes it a little bit easier for you. The other way, as I mentioned, is an external password, and I'll show you real quick how to do that. It's actually extremely easy to set up, and some applications unfortunately don't support single sign-on, but this will work around that for you. So you're going to log in via your account. You're going to click on the gearbox over on the right-hand side. Sometimes the browser kind of cuts it off, so you have to scroll all the way to the right. You can click the gearbox and go to Account Settings. From there, the first tab, you're going to go all the way to the bottom, and it says Create an External Password. This external password is not managed by UPenn at all, so if you forget it, you'll have to log into the account via the single sign-on process to change that password. Any questions on that? Pretty straightforward. Some prep work for the mobile application. So you can download the application via your mobile device and get started right away. Some of the things that don't work right off the bat currently are the collaboration functions, be able to share folders with users that are in the enterprise account or externally as well. Some of those functionalities that are not built into the mobile application, but you can actually log on via upenn.box.com from any browser, even from the tablet. The tablet and the phone will force you through a mobile application look feel, but if you scroll to the bottom, it'll say View Full Site. From there, then you can add your collaborators from there. I'm assuming everyone knows what collaborators are. You with that? Okay, great. As I mentioned, verify the users you want to collaborate with and have appropriate permissions already set up before you try to use the mobile application for that. Make sure the application is enabled. As I mentioned again, if it's not, feel free to go to the website below, computing/box, easy enough to find, and make a request. We're taking in requests all the time, and the team will review them for any type of security concerns or documentation that's needed for users to be able to work through that process, and then they'll be turned on. Again, some applications require an external password. This is important because when you go to an application and you assume it's going to work with your pen key and your password and it doesn't, this is why. One of the other options or caveats to this is if the application is the third-party application is not enabled, you'll also get a message stating that you can't connect. So some of those troubleshooting options there. We have a huge list of guidelines based on the different applications as they come through, different requests, things you should do with this application, things you should do with this application. For instance, some of the applications I'm going to show you later do require caching of box credentials, do require you to log into another account via their application setup. So those kind of caveats you want to make sure that you can review, make sure the data that's going on to Box through those applications is equivalent. Under the Box mobile applications, there's a website, upenn.box.com services browse. This will show you all the current enabled applications for the UPenn Enterprise account. If you are not logged into your UPenn account, you will get forwarded to a services list that shows all the applications. So you can kind of get a gist of what applications are out there, what may not be enabled. You can find out whether or not there's an application out there that you're interested in. If you are logged in, you'll get obviously a shorter list, but all the ones that are official. All Box mobile applications are what they consider third-party applications. They're not direct connect, so you can use your single sign-on for that. They can be downloaded via the iTunes Store or Android Store. They try to be as similar as possible. There are some little things here and there that are slightly different, but in most cases, the basic applications are exactly the same. One major thing here is, as Ted mentioned, you want to make sure you enable pins. Within the Box applications, pins are enabled by default. So you will not be able to use your account with the Box application until you create a pin. That specifically is for the Box account itself and not necessarily for the device itself, the whole device. So when you go to log in for the first time, it'll say create a pin. This pin is different than the one that you do for the whole device itself. Any questions for that? Great. Just a login, basic login screen from the iPad. You can watch a short demo if you'd like, or you can log in. What you want to do is you want to select the more login options to use your single sign-on process. From there, we'll ask you your username. Your username is not your email address unless you have an @upenn.edu email address. Box uses what's called federated IDs through UPenn. So that would be your pen key @upenn.edu. From there, you'll then get, when you go hit the login button, you'll get the standard web login page that everybody knows, the Penn logo. You'll be able to put in your pen key and password. And then we'll proceed. From there, you'll be brought to a folder directory. On the left-hand side, it'll show you all of the different folders. It's very similar to like a Windows Explorer type. We have a preview on the right-hand side, and then different options that are available to you. From the upper right-hand corner or the lower bottom left-hand corner, you'll see a little cloud icon with a plus. This allows you to add, upload, share, and create in other applications, documents, and folders. The one important thing here is there's a little gear right toward the left-hand side, with the right-hand side of the little preview plane there. That is where you can change your PIN. You can log out of the account if you want, and other options like local caching. So if you're working through documents that shouldn't be locally cached on the tablet itself, you can then disable those types of things. Some really neat options that they have available out through the mobile application is to the left. I'm going to start to the left first. The updates and favorites. These are really cool because whenever you're collaborating with someone and they make a change to a file, your updates bar will blink. You can go there and you can immediately see what changes the users made and go into the document or the folder to see what those changes are. Favorites is really neat as well. You can go through a document, say for instance you have several folder structures to get to a document and you want to make sure you can get back to that quickly. You can hit the star button and that will save it as a favorite and get back to it extremely quickly. It's similar to a bookmark. From the right-hand side, some really neat options. You can actually comment within the mobile application. So say, for instance, you are collaborating with someone on a Word document. Instead of actually editing the Word document to say what you wanted to say against that document, you can go into comments and actually, it's very similar to a forum type of feel and actually collaborate. So you can say, hey, this document looks great. Or these are the changes that I think you need to change, and then the user can go and make those changes and then re-upload them. As I mentioned, the stars for the favorites. The cloud icon, as you notice, changes. It's slightly different now because I'm in preview mode of this Excel document. What that allows me to do is I can then ask the Box application to forward this file to another application that I have on my iPad for editing. The ... on the, all the way on the right-hand side does share, print, delete, and rename, some of the basic functions. Any questions?
Comment.
Yeah.
And this is because the Box mobile application itself doesn't have the ability to edit your favorite document types, correct?
Exactly. Box currently doesn't have any editing functionality. You can view multiple different types of files, but you can't actually edit them. I think their answer to that sort of is the comments section, which actually shows up on the website as well. So if you go log into the website, you'll actually see those comments as well. So that's the Box mobile application. As Vern said, there's no editing availability, but Box does give you the ability to select an application that's on your iPad to do editing with. So I'm going to talk about two products that I personally like. One's called Cloud On, and the other one's called Polaris Office. One of the other ones that I think I heard someone talk about before was Notability. That's a very nice application. It works very similar to this.
Quick Office as well.
Quick Office as well. This is really nice. Cloud On brings Microsoft Office to your tablet. It actually gives you sort of a virtual feel of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. And you can go in and make edits and changes, save documents to your Box account. Supports both the iPad and the Android. As far as I can tell, they're both free, so you can go and download those. One of the caveats is it does require you to register an account with Cloud On. It is a free account, but sometimes that's not the best option, especially if you're doing different types of data that shouldn't be out on other platforms. It does copy the files locally for editing within the Cloud On application and then copies them back out to the Box environment. Box does allow you to, from within the Box environment, copy to Cloud On and Cloud On back to Box as well. So it doesn't matter which application you're in, you can transverse between the two of them without any problems. As mentioned, free to use. After logging in the first time around with Cloud On, it's going to ask you what type of platform you want to use as the backing of it. There are several options like Dropbox, Google Drive is there, and then one of the options is Box. This particular application requires that you use an external password, so you want to make sure you set that up prior to this, because when you go to type in your username and password, this email goes here, your pen key will not work here. So what you're going to do is you're going to use your federated ID, as I mentioned before, which is your pen key at upenn.edu, and that external password to be set up within the Box account. As soon as you log in, you get this screen. which is their basic default screen. You can actually change it so it shows the icons in list form. But it's really neat. You can actually select different places to migrate between different folders and files. It gives you a little preview of what you're looking at here. On the right-hand side, you'll see a little file icon. That's just the edit recent documents. The middle icon is a share icon, and then a fresh icon. Basic stuff. Home, and then back and forth. Be able to traverse through that folders. The main icon you're most concerned about is the one that I have selected, which is the app icon. You can select which type of document you want to create. Here I have shown a Excel document that I haven't opened up yet, but I actually created a Word document just to show you kind of what it looks like. It uses the same type of ribbon and everything that Word looks like. So I'm not quite sure if they're actually showing you some type of virtual desktop, but it's exactly the same as if you were sitting at your desktop using the Word program or Excel or PowerPoint, which is nice because if you're trying to look for something or there's no issues there with conversions and stuff like that. Any questions on that? It's a really nice program. Like I said, one of the caveats is you have to log in to an account via CloudOn, but as soon as you get past that, it's really nice. Polaris Office. Again, provides editing via Microsoft Documents, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Supports both iPad and Android, although, as I mentioned, iPad is about $13. If you end up liking it from an Android device, it's worth the buy to take a look at it. Free from the Google Play Store. I had a chance to take a look at that last week. It worked really well. Again, copies files locally for editing, which can be a security concern for that. It does not currently support pins within the application. So what happens is when you go to load up the application, it automatically connects you to your Box account, but it doesn't have any security layer there for that. So you'll actually be able to connect directly to your Box account, edit and copy files without going through some type of security layer. So it's very important that you have your PIN created on your device. It is also a direct connect application, so there's no third-party application that needs to be enabled on the enterprise side. Bless you. So you can just go download the program, put in your credentials, your Box credentials. Again, it's an external password, and you can log right in. Polaris does not require you to create another account, which is really nice. So there's that feature, so you can just download it and go right ahead. Here's what the interface looks like when you first start off. It's going to give you some suggestions, templates, what document you will come at edit. Polaris Office does give you a local storage option, whereas CloudOn does not. You have to connect a environment, cloud environment. But you would simply just connect to online storage, Box will show up, and then you put your information in, and you get connected. Settings is important as well, you can make changes there. Basic folder structure, again, very similar to Explorer. You have your folder structure on the left. You'll see the Android, actually did the screenshots from the Android. You'll see the Android toolbar there. There are some icons up on the right-hand corner that are important. You have your recent files, your new file, new folder, and then the little drop-down, which gives you extra options like rename, delete, and all that. New file will give you a drop-down to create a Word document, Excel document, PowerPoint. And then I actually have a screenshot of what an Excel document looks like. Obviously, it's not a virtual desktop of Excel, but does do most of the things it needs to do in order to be able to read the Excel document. There may be some conversion issues there. I haven't really done full testing on it, but it does allow you to edit documents in basic form and save them to your Box account. Any questions on that? We're good. It's a really nice program. Again, if you have an Android device, it's awesome. Because it's free, you download it, you're not required to add give someone your email address or anything like that. You just go right in, log in your Box account, and you're ready. Some troubleshooting tips, a couple I've mentioned already, but we want to make sure that you verify the application is enabled. There's your URLs if it's not. Verify the permissions on the folder or files. So if you're in an application, if you're in the Box application and you're trying to collaborate with someone or share a link to someone else, you want to make sure that those permissions are set properly. If they're not within the Box account or a Box mobile application, it will just tell you. It says I can't do that. Check that application, make sure if it needs an external password or not, make sure that's set up. Always review the security guidelines and never hesitate to request assistance. The Pro Desk is available for any types of questions. We go through a ticketing system for application requests and be able to get answers to you right away. Any questions?
Is there any good solution? We ran into an issue where we were opening files off Box, like a few people simultaneously, and then we have these conflicted copies that end up in the or like files will get overwritten with newer like somebody will make a change.
Like group collaboration you're talking
yeah,
about?
like somebody will be making a change while somebody else is, and they end up rewriting each other.
There is revisions. So if you go in and you make a change to a file and someone else makes a change immediately after that, there's revisions that you can go back and make those changes. But there is no group collaboration where while you're editing a file, somebody else is editing that same file and you see those changes. There's no live group. I know Google does that, but unfortunately this doesn't do that just yet.
Okay, I didn't realize you could see the revisions.
Yeah, I think it actually goes back 10 revisions, and then I think you can recover up to 20 if you need to.
Okay, that's good.
Something like that, but it's definitely 10 revisions that you can see immediately.
Got it.
Yeah. One thing that's important that I know that people get tripped up on is the trash. When you delete a file, it sits in your trash for 30 days. If you are collaborating with a folder and you delete that file, it goes in your trash can and not the user who owns the folder trash can. So you want to make sure that users have the correct permissions. The permissions are very explicit, and it's more of a, they don't have access until you give them access. You want to make sure you give them the proper access to do things, so they're not going through and deleting something by accident and then having to be able to recover it.
Chris, let me make a comment to address your concern. You can, I guess, establish rules with your working group as a best practice, because there is a locking ability. So you can lock a file or have someone, like whoever's working on the file, lock it, and then that's kind of like a visual element for other collaborators to kind of wait around until that person's done with it. But I've also seen instances where like one mobile device is accessing a file and someone else is, and Box is kind of smart in that it creates a version of the file name with a date stamp. So yes, you can go back into the revisions to get an older version, but with the best practice of like try to have one person work on it and lock the file to warn others not to touch it, and also I guess if you're lucky enough to get like a date stamp version and you're safe. You can usually go back and get a previous version.
Good idea. Appreciate that.
So the comment we've been hearing about Penbox has to do with video. I don't know if you talked about it already. It came in a little bit late. People were saying they're having difficulty putting video files up on Penbox and then playing it. You have to download the entire thing, and that interface has been slow.
I'm not quite sure what the limitation is there, but there is a file size limitation.
I don't think it was that. It was more like speed and performance.
Yeah, it might be. It might be. I mean, we can take it offline and we can double check to see if there's any limitations to that. I can get you more information.
Yeah, there's a couple of professors who are trying to use it for video projects.
For video, okay. Is that to multiple devices at the same time? So
No,
everyone in the classroom is trying to download it at the same time?
No, they're all
Okay.
uploading to a common folder,
Okay.
and then the plan was to use that folder to show in class.
Okay.
And there were some performance issues like during class.
Gotcha. Okay.
But only one person was downloading it at a time, so it wasn't a case
Right.
of multiple people.
Okay. Yeah, no, we can definitely check that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Then, I'm sorry, go ahead. I already had my first question.
I'm a student, and I don't know if students know about Box, but we all know about Dropbox and Drive. So what makes this better than Dropbox or Drive?
Well, you get 50 gig for free, right there. You can use your pen key, which makes it easier to get to without having to go through creating an account process and having a separate password for this particular instance. The collaboration is really nice as well through students, so you can say, I want to share this file with this other student. Say, for instance, you're working together on a lab or something. You say, I want to be able to share this to these other users. That's like instant. The other user can just go log in. You can all work on the same thing.
But it's like an Excel file or a Word file, right? You're editing that one copy.
It can be anything. It doesn't necessarily need to be Excel, Word, or PowerPoint, but the document editing software showed you just does that. Okay. So there's a plethora of other options out there for that.
So I guess the reason why everyone really uses Drive right now is because you can edit at the same time. You see that someone's editing.
Mhm.
You don't have this problem with revisions, where someone's editing, you're editing, and it saves multiple copies with timestamps. Where when you're on Drive, it's just like you see what they're writing, so you can make sure not to edit that box. Or
Right. Yeah, unfortunately, Box doesn't currently support that, but it's definitely something that's been brought up. So something that they might come out with. Obviously, Box and all these other cloud providers can just instantly update certain things. So it may just one day just start working. So we'll look forward to it.
Well, when there is collaboration like he was talking about on Box, is there any indication who's doing the editing?
Yes, it shows who has the file locked at that point.
Oh,
So-
you can't do it synchronously.
Right, exactly. From within Box, you can't edit at the same time. It allows the user to go in, lock the file, make the changes, have it back, unlock the file.
And when the other person opens it,
That person would then lock that file again.
but does it show in red or something that
Yes,
edits?
it shows a lock icon.
No, I mean the edits that have been made.
Oh, I guess within the Word document it would.
It does.
Yeah, within the actual Word document itself. And within Box, you would see a lock icon, and it would only allow you to read only at that point, as long as the user hasn't unlocked the file.
Okay.
One advantage of Box over Dropbox is if you're uploading larger files, Dropbox is a smaller limit. Like the digital media lab, people upload their videos and things like that. If it's over 100 megabytes, you have to actually install Dropbox on the machine. You can't do that in the lab. Whereas whatever the limit is for Box, I don't know if you know what it is.
It's 5 gig limit
So,
of a particular file.
yeah, so you can do that through the web browser. It takes a while to upload 5 gigs, but it's possible to do.
There's also a desktop sync as well that I didn't mention that makes copying files there. Streams.
And it's selective in Box, also you can say, I just want to save this folder and this folder.
Yeah.
Another advantage.
From the Penn Libraries.
So I'm going to be talking today about a new tool that we purchased called the eBeam Capture, which basically allows you to capture from a whiteboard, writing the dry erase markers onto your computer. And this is a tool we learned about actually through Coursera. The folks over at the Coursera here at Penn have one of these, and we were so impressed with it we decided to get one. We've had requests for this type of technology for a while. People, especially faculty, but certainly not just faculty, students also and some staff, want to be able to basically kind of write on the computer and capture it in some way. And we've tried different things from a Wacom tablet to using iPads, and nothing really seems to quite do the job quite right. Nothing really duplicates that experience of actually writing on a chalkboard or whiteboard and being able to capture that. So the e-beam capture that we have, it comes in a few different parts to it. The most important part is this sensor, also the most expensive part, is this sensor which actually tracks where the dry erase markers are. This is magnetic, so you can just stick it to a whiteboard, and you can move it around where you need to. I'll show you about that in a second. This kit also comes with some metal plates, so if you wanted to mount this permanently on a wall, for example, maybe next to something where there isn't a magnetic surface normally, you can kind of make your magnetic surface with these plates. You could use this in addition to on a whiteboard. You could potentially use this on a flip chart. So if you have a paper chart, for example, and that actually has a couple of advantages over the dry erase. I'll talk about that a little bit later. There are a couple of versions of this kit. One of them is Bluetooth. It's wireless. There's also the version that we went with, which is the USB version. The main reason we went with the USB cable is just this very long USB cable, so that it can reach from the sensor to your computer. Is that it's easier to use. There's less that can go wrong. People don't have to figure out how to make their Bluetooth get recognized, etc. So we just figured that it's going to be easier with with Bluetooth. So this then just plugs right into this sensor, and you can just put it here on the board. The other end is just a regular USB cable, and you just plug it into the computer that's running the software. This is the software we're running right now. It's free. It comes with the kit. It's available for both Mac and PC. There are a couple subtle differences between the two, and I'll talk about those in a minute also. So right now, this is telling me, it says your receiver could not be detected. It looked for this sensor, it couldn't find it because I hadn't plugged the USB cable in yet. So it's asking me if I want to search again for it. Now that I've actually plugged it in, I'm going to click search again, and it's found it now. And the first thing we actually need to do is, we're going to come to Tools and Calibrate Capture Area. We need to tell e-beam kind of where on this whiteboard we're going to draw on, basically. And I have it on this rolling whiteboard right now, just because so I can actually bring it into the view of the camera, etc., and so you can see it better. But you could use this wall whiteboard here. You can capture a much bigger surface than this small whiteboard. So the first question it asks me is, where did you put the sensor? So you can put it in any of the 4 locations there, top, bottom, left, or right. It's right here on the left, so it's already selected. I'm just going to click Next. So the next thing it asks me to do is to actually tap a couple dots on the board to define the upper and lower right-hand corners. So the thing I'm going to use for that are these, and these are the other things that come with this kit. These sleeves are, let me show you an empty one. This is just an empty sleeve. It has a battery in it, so that this actually makes a little noise, a little buzzing sound. It's very hard to hear. The older you get, the harder it is to hear, apparently. But this actually kind of tracks that buzzing sound, so it knows where you're drawing. These are empty when you get them. There's nothing in here, but you can just put a regular dry erase marker in, just drop it in, and close it. This takes these, just a couple button batteries, right? Just like you use for various electronic devices. And then it has a cap you can keep on this, because the regular cap won't fit on the sleeve. Can you guys hear this buzzing sound? I'll pass this around. So when you press this in, it actually makes a slight buzzing sound. I'll just pass it around so you can just do that, so you can hear what it's actually doing, so that you can see what the e-beam does. So it asked me to actually, on the whiteboard, it comes with 4 of these sleeves for the markers, to tap in the upper, where the red dot is. So I'm just going to tap it up here. And it heard that. It heard me do that. It tap the dot up here. I'm going to tap another dot down here. Okay, and so now it knows. It tells me how big my whiteboard capture is. I've successfully defined this. At this point, I can click Done. And here on the screen, it shows me a representation of my whiteboard. And wherever I write with my whiteboard, it's going to capture on the software. It's smart enough to know that if I write with a different color, it knows it's a different color. And you can, like I said, there are 4 of these. Now I'm actually writing with a blue marker, you can see on here. So it doesn't actually know. It doesn't say, oh, look, you're writing with a blue marker. So you're going to put blue up there. It's been told ahead of time kind of what color to use. And you can customize these, and I'll show you how to do that. So you can imagine, professors are up here talking, imagine the rectangle here, and this is 4 inches, and this is 3 inches. Right. So again, basically capturing this. What I can also do then, after I'm done with this, is I can play this back. I'm going to play this at a faster speed here. I can tell it to loop over and over again. When I'm done with, hey Caitlin, could you run and get me the eraser, which is I think hopefully on the chalk tray in the lab?
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. So if I want to start a new slide here at this point, so but I want to kind of keep this one so I can refer back to it. I can just say new. So it's a slide. I can erase this old one. Come back to this, and here's my new slide. You can save this file. Keep it as a flash. In addition to writing on the slide, I can actually erase with this eraser, and it knows that I've erased it also. This eraser also has one of those button battery things in it, and it buzzes just like the markers do, so that when I erase, it knows where I'm erasing, and it just erases that from the slide. And then I can continue. It does a pretty good job. I can save this file now. I can just basically save this in its own format to the desktop, close the software, reopen it later, play it back again. I can distribute this to students. If they have the software, they can open it up and play it back. The PC version of this software allows you to, it's built into the software where you can actually record audio. So as I'm talking, it's recording what I'm saying as well as what I'm writing on the board. I could then export that as a movie, like a QuickTime file or AVI or WMV, and distribute that to students, put that on Blackboard or Canvas or wherever it is you want to put on YouTube for that matter, so the students can then watch it at their leisure, hear my lecture. I could do this at home, you know what I mean? I could make this whole lecture at home on the whiteboard talking. The PC version has that functionality. The Mac version does not currently. I'm hoping that it will in the future. And in the meantime, what we do with the Mac is just use a piece of screen capture software like Snaps Pro or ScreenFlow or Snagit, something like that. And then we can sit down with you and actually show you how to use it. I don't think there's too much else I need to show you. The other feature that, a couple of the things that I'm not showing you today are, one, it has the ability to have these live meetings where you can connect to this eBeam server and you can allow up to 25 other people to connect at the same time, and you can have these live meetings so that they are seeing you right on the chalkboard, whiteboard. live and hear you as you're talking. The other thing that you can do is there's another pen in here. This is there's not actually a marker. It doesn't mark anything. But if you use this software with a projector, so I can project this onto the screen. This also makes those buzzing noises. I think it gives you some points on the screen. You can tap, like physically, I would walk up to the screen and tap on these specific points. And then I can actually use this like a mouse on my screen, and I can highlight things or tap on something and drag it around. If I had Photoshop open, I could actually be writing in Photoshop. It doesn't work as well in a situation where you've got, look, now you're looking at the back of me rather than what I'm actually doing. It would work better with a short throw projector, maybe from the ceiling or ground, so that you don't have your shadow messing up the image quite as much. But that functionality exists if you're interested. And I have tried it, and it does work. I don't think I have too much else to say about it if you guys don't have more questions. Okay.
I have a question about what you just said. So if you had a document up there and you wanted to mark it, then so what did you? So all the functionalities that you have here are there. Is that what you said?
Basically, yes. Yeah. It's whatever I could do with a mouse. I'm just using this as my mouse, essentially, by operating directly on the document here instead of.
Oh, so when you said move words around, you literally meant in the document.
In the document itself, you could, right. You do like Tom Cruise, only that in the movie. What's the movie?
Minority Report.
Minority Report. There you go. He's using his finger for anything, do anything, but this is this turns you into Tom Cruise, basically. Well, like I say, if you're interested, just let me know, and we'll get you set up and figure out how we can get you using it. And I know the Education Commons also is going to be acquiring some of these, so they'll have some of them over there.
We expect to have 3 of them by the fall.
Right, and I don't know if he's going to lend those or they're just going to be usable in the Commons, I'm guessing.
I'm not sure. It's early to tell.
But they'll be there also. All right, thanks for coming, guys.
From the Penn Libraries.
So for those of you who are joining us today, welcome Gadget Day. My name is Catherine Hudson. I'm a librarian and amateur softball player, former high school athlete, and anti-runner who pretends to work out every once in a while. We're talking about this. We had so many great ideas. We came up with a ton of apps, and we're all excited. We're going to try a bunch. We're going to have this great, amazing presentation for you, and really just focus on apps too. So if you're wondering why Nike Plus isn't here, we didn't want any extras. We want something you can download and go out tomorrow and use. There we go. And so we have this big plan, and 2 days later, I basically sprained my ankle. And I'm like, I'll get Eric to Janik from Education Commons to co-present with me. This is the video. And now Eric is actually so hurt and messed up his foot and is at home today because he couldn't walk here. So that's the story of our presentation. So I'm going to be kind of playing it by ear for a little bit of this, the apps he was going to talk about. So we're mostly focusing on apps we've used a lot before, and that we could kind of try without having to actually go and do the workouts, because that was totally not an option. And we got the impression that was not an appropriate use of an intern. So that's what we've got. He said she would have done it. No! Okay. Next time, Vicki will be assisting with the running app. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about 4 different apps for different things, and then there's a lot on here. And I think we have a lot of fitness enthusiasts in the room too, so we're going to kind of get some more ideas from you guys and get a really nice list of fitness apps together. This first one that I want to talk about is the Couch to 5K app. There's a lot, if you're familiar with the Couch to 5K program, it's a 9-week program that takes you from running and walking variations. It takes you from basically barely being able to jog for a minute at a time to running a 5K over 9 weeks. There's a lot of apps for it. In the past, I always struggled because I I couldn't keep track of it. I was like, how long have I been running? And it never worked out. So I'm like, I'm going to get an app. And there's a lot of options. I really like the official one, though. There's free options if you don't want all the bells and whistles. The paid one is great. You get to pick your little trainer, and they tell you when to run and when to walk and give you motivating messages. You can pick your trainer and the tone of the motivating messages, too. So if you're not a big cheerleader, if you want, like, the, like, drill sergeant type trainer, you can pick one of them instead. It tells you when to jog and when to walk. And it does a lot of really great analytics, too. So you get your distance. It uses GPS. It does all of your pacing, and then you get cool little charts that like compare your pace throughout like this 9-week program, and all of that. And so it's really nice. It also syncs with your own music. So if you already have like playlists on your phone, music on your phone, you can do that in the app all together. So I really like this. It actually got me farther into the program than I'd ever gotten before. And actually, if you're already a runner and are kind of around that 5K mark right now, they just released a new app to partner with this, which is the 5K to 10K app. So if you're looking to kind of take that next step from, I can do the 5K, you can also do the 10K. All of these are part of the Active.com community of apps. There's a couple of other ones they have too, but a great thing they all do is they connect you to this whole list that Active.com has compiled of different 5K, 10K races. So you can actually then use the GPS and find 5K races near you. So once you get to the end and feel like you're ready to take that step and go out and actually run a 5K with other people around, you're ready to do that. That's most of what that app does. It also tracks how long it's been since your last workout. So when I opened mine a few days ago, it's like, it's been a while. You should probably start over. So it really does have good tracking and good memory. And I really enjoyed working with it. I liked my trainer. I know Mondo is one Eric is really going to talk about. We put this under running, but it's really kind of everything. He uses it a lot for cycling, and you can really use it for just about any activity. So running, cycling, walking, hiking, and then you can actually input a lot of stuff. So if you're doing like a spinning class or even a yoga class, there's a dancing option. So if that's your preferred method of exercise, that's an option too. So really you can always input anything, but he said it's strongest when you can really take advantage of the GPS features. It's also a social app, which is kind of cool, so you can see routes that other people have created. You can set up different programs on your own. There are paid versions and free versions, so you get a little bit more if you're willing to pay for it. It's about $5. And there's also an online component, so you can log in there and track everything there and get really detailed analytics again on your pacing, your total distance, your progress, all of that stuff. Calories burned, it's all there. And then you also have a lot of different workout types. I kind of like compete on a route. So then you can take this route that someone else has already created and compete against everyone else who's already run that loop, for example. So I could see that like around Penn Park and down on like the Schuylkill Trail, there being a lot of people who would be participating in this, and it kind of adds this fun competitive aspect to it. You can also share out to Facebook, which is always fun. But because it's social, people can see like if you're out running, and they can send you messages, like encouraging messages as you go. Optional. But if you did want a little bit more of a social workout without actually running side by side with someone, that's an option. It also has different maps, and then gives you some pretty good information as you're going. Nike Training Club. This is actually, I've seen this mentioned a few different places lately. This is more of a training app. It's got a bunch of different workouts in it. Just a little note, this is part of the Nike Women program, so everything you see in the app will be women. Guys, if you do it, you can probably still get some benefit out of it, but you might want to think about like your weights and stuff, especially for the beginner levels. Probably don't do the 5-pound thing to start like we do. But what it does is it's got a variety of 30 and 45-minute workouts for all these different things. So Go Lean is a lot of like cardio, interval training type stuff, tone, strong. And then the Get Focused workouts are all like 15-minute targeted workouts, like 15 minutes on arms, 15 minutes on abs. Everything, when you go into the workout, it then shows you, like, it's also if you can do pretty much at home in a living room or something. I've actually seen people doing it at the gym, though, over at Fox. So that was really cool. No, I wasn't the only one. But it has step-by-step pictures and also little videos. They're just like little 10, 15-second videos that show you how to do an exercise. So the way I've actually used this, more than just doing the workouts, is I need new exercises for X, like for legs or for abs. And I go in there and I dive in and I learn how to do something new. And it's proven to be really helpful for that because they have videos of everything. It's also gamified, so if you do so many workouts, you start to get rewards. And a lot of those rewards are just more workouts, but they're celebrity workouts. So it's like Serena Williams contributed a core workout. And if you've ever watched her play tennis, her abdominal region is top-notch. That's where she gets most of her power. So you get that. You get like professional surfers giving you their leg and core workouts, and it's really fun. Hope Solo's got one. All sorts of your famous, really top-notch female athletes have contributed. There's an online portion too, which is just about all of these. But it's a lot of fun. This is another one where you can sync your music and just let it go, and so kind of just like listen to it, and it guides you through the workout. So you do like a minute of lunges, and then a minute of jump squats, and then a minute of push-ups, and kind of takes you through all these things. So it's really a complete workout. And everyone, too, when you start it, tells you what you need. So if you, for example, have dumbbells at home but not a medicine ball, you know that that's something to consider before you start. And you can even find ones that don't involve weights at all. And last, we wanted to make sure we weren't just including workout apps because that's not for everyone. So I'd read about this app, Fig, back in like November, December of last year, and was really curious. Then when I talked to Anu about doing this presentation, I went back, and this was the first one I downloaded and the first one I started to use again. I'm absolutely obsessed. And it's reminding me I should actually log my water that I drank so far today. So Fig is kind of this whole mind, body, spirit, everything app. And it's just helping you achieve different goals in these wellness areas. You pick your goals, you pick how often you want to do them, and you pick how public you want to be about them. So if you want everyone in the app to see it, you can connect with Facebook. And it's really everything. It can be eat more vegetables, drink more water. Drink more water is one of mine. Avoid caffeine in the afternoon. I'm not getting that star today. And then things like meditate every morning. Call your mom once a week can be one of them. Get more sleep, exercise, walk during lunch one day a week. And so it's really a very robust app in that respect because it doesn't, all these other ones, like it's a running app, it's, you've got some yoga apps on the handout. This is kind of everything. So no matter where you are, and for me, as someone who can't work out right now, this was really nice. Because I was still able to really think very mindfully about my wellness, even though I'm not doing what I normally would think of for something that's fitness goes mobile and going to the gym. So I really encourage you to check this out. You set everything yourself, and then once you do something, you just would say, click on that, and if you achieve it, you get a little star. And then it starts over the next day, and you can track it over time. So you can see, like, have I actually been achieving this every day? And so then if you've been doing it for weeks straight, you see a line of stuff. And so it's just a little bit of a gamified thing, but I can say personally it's made a big difference because I'll see my water bottle, I'm like, I finished those 2 ounces, I just chug the rest of this, I can get another star. And it's really motivating. Silly, but motivating. Those are the 4 we really wanted to focus on. We had a huge list, though. We really had to kind of, even just to get this handout with just 8 apps on it, ruled out a lot. MyFitnessPal is really popular for nutritional stuff, like calorie tracking. Obstacles XRT is one I really wanted to try. It's iOS only, and it does obstacle courses that basically like mimics them in your living room, was my understanding. So that's on my phone. I'm very much looking forward to it. Zombies Run got a lot of press last year. You get to like go out for a run in your neighborhood, and every once in a while, it'll tell you like zombies are coming after you, and you have to like sprint or something. So it's lots of fun. Runkeeper and Map My Run are kind of the two standard running ones where you can share routes and things like that. They are though very much more running centric than Endomondo, is my understanding. Which is why we. But we also wanted to throw this out to the room because Ani told us a lot of people were coming, and obviously we have some runners in here, multiple runners in here. We're kind of wondering if everyone
Just say people can share that.
Sure. Yeah. So we're kind of wondering if people would mind sharing what they use, and if they really have anything that they really like for something that we didn't cover or something we did cover.
I found it really difficult to do maps. I spend more time doing figure out how to do it. And then I started doing my fitness pal, but then like, oh my god, it takes forever. And I started doing Weight Watcher from the online, and it's still so forever. It's like it's just better to just do it.
Yeah. Well, that's where some of these like Endomondo, the GPS might be helpful. Because you can just start it and take it with you, and then I'll do the map for you.
The ones that measure your heart rate, how do they actually do that?
I had a heart rate one on here. It gives your camera.
To do what?
Like, did you put it like on your
finger.
finger? So you can do it that way, or you can connect it to a heart rate monitor or something.
How do you
pulse of your finger?
How do you connect it to a heart rate monitor?
I think it depends on the app. Those are Eric's apps, so I'm not sure. But there has to be a lot of these, like Endomondo, Fitocracy, Livestrong, all have online components, and even Nike Training Club does. So you can also log in like through their website and get access to a much simpler way to enter data in a lot of cases. So fun. At least I think it's simpler. If you're even more touch your phone than me, you might prefer it. Well, if only one of me, this may have come in a little short. But we did want to do a nice little ending. So there's a lot of apps out there. Find one that works for you. I've always had people say, like, oh, you don't like running? Don't run. Do something else. And then so that's where the rules in the second half come in. Do something. Don't get hurt. And please talk to your doctor before starting anything. And medical advice, blah, blah, blah. And if you have questions, let us know, and we'll be happy to answer them in a month, and we can work out. Any questions?
Do you use any apps? I don't. I'm pretty minimalist when I run, so I don't even take my phone with me. So good, but I do use, if I know I want to need a certain mileage, I just use Gmaps Speedometer usually just on my computer before I leave, and just map out the distance. But I think it would be really cool to download one of these and take it with me and do a GPS.
I think the armband is kind of like the big thing. It has to happen there.
Right.
Because carrying it just does not work.
Yeah, exactly.
We're constantly hitting the screen.
Yeah. I think the Map My Run is the one my daughter uses, and she doesn't actually carry it with her, but she puts it in her.
Yeah.
You can do it after the fact.
Yeah, and I know with things like Nike Plus, like those are compatible too with like my little clip-on iPad Nano or iPod Nano. So, but then you have to have either the thing or the shoe.
From the Penn Libraries.
So, I'm going to be talking to you today about the GoPro wearable action camera. This is an amazing piece of technology which is actually
So it's small enough that you can wear it on your head, but actually what you're looking at here is a lot more than just the camera. So let me pull this out for you. So what I'm holding in the palm of my hand is the GoPro camera. It weighs maybe a couple of ounces. It's the size of the palm of my hand. You could put it in your pocket. You could put it in your shirt pocket if I had one. And it shoots up to 4K video, which is 4 times as big as HD. It can shoot up to 120 frames a second. It can do a lot for something that's this small. So I'm just going to be showing you some of the things that this lets you do. Obviously, one of the coolest things about it is that you can put it in a case and strap it onto your body or onto your head or onto your bike or your car. And it lets you record things like this, which is just a little video that I shot riding home from work one day. I'm an avid cyclist, so this appealed really strongly to me. Just put this thing back together. So you may recognize Locust Walk. I spend a lot of time there, but you know, even though I ride this path all of the time, after 5 only, still seeing it this way is a little bit different. And that's really what the GoPro is for. You wouldn't want to use this to shoot a feature film necessarily, or to try and like record an event like this. Its real strength is that it lets you pretty much set it going and ignore it. And just sort of show people things from your life that normally you would never be able to record, like shooting down Locust Walk on a bike. So I'm a big fan of that capability of it. And it's got a lot of accessories and a lot of sort of little features that enable it to do stuff like this really well. So let me show you a little bit more of that. Yeah, I'm most of the way across campus. I think you get the idea. So let me get out of this. Back to PowerPoint. So okay, it's got a lot of stuff in this little bag. So let me show you around some of the things that we've got in the GoPro kit. Some of the coolest stuff is the different ways you can put it on. So this is the chest harness. And everything locks together with these really neat interlocking parts. So I can screw this off of here and pull it loose and screw it right onto here. And now I can walk around the room like this. And you can, this is actually great for things like jogging and running around, because from the point of view, you like see the arms passing the camera, and it looks really wild. There's the head mount, which I already showed you, and I actually, I left the bicycle helmet mount on my bike helmet. But for the helmet mount and the chest mount, it snaps right on and off. It's a little bit hard, like it's a really firm snap, which is good because you wouldn't want it to come flying off when you're, you know, snowboarding down a hill at 80 miles an hour. But it's neat that it's as easily interlockable and interchangeable as it is. And it actually comes with a lot of really neat mounting equipment, just in terms of different mounting pieces here. And this is pretty cool. It's got like this long sort of swivel arm. So just unscrew this.
So you can get this thing set up to shoot in really weird, complicated ways. I was hoping that I would have time to be able to like hook it onto my chest and put it out on an arm and shoot like a point of view shot. It can rotate sideways. So just that sort of adaptability really lets you sort of run wild with your imagination in terms of like Dave is hoping at some point to mount it on the end of his banjo so he can get really good shots of his fingers picking the strings. I'd like to put it on the end of a skateboard. It can do a lot. So the more nuts and bolts parts of it, let me show you the camera again. So this camera is actually almost 50% battery, and that really tells you how far the technology's come. So this is the battery, this is the rest of the camera, so you can pretty much see, like, at this point the battery is really the limiting factor on this. And I'm going to talk to you guys more about that in a minute because that is one of the limitations of the GoPro is we also have an external battery pack for it, and that, again, like, adds like another third to the size, and it's pretty much mandatory if you want to be able to shoot for more than half an hour or so. Like rechargeable battery life still isn't as good as it could be, and so most of what you're carrying around with this thing is battery and housing. And of course, speaking of the housing that this comes with is it not only allows you to secure it to your body or your head or your belt or your car or your snowboard or your balloon. It's also waterproof, which is really cool for doing stuff like this. Let's see if we can get this to load. So this is me biking through the city in the rain. It was pouring. This was like last Saturday night. You can't quite see the rain. Some of the time you can, though. And that's actually something that's impressive about the resolution is this is like very low light shooting in the rain while vibrating. And while it's not necessarily like Scorsese quality footage, it's not horrible. Like you can make out details, and it's worth keeping in mind this is heavily compressed. In the full version of this, you can read license plates on the cars as they go by me. And you know, this is in the dead of night with rain coming down from all sides. This is not something you'd want to do with your camcorder or your iPad or your phone. And so I think that is a real gift. So I get a lot of joy out of using it just to be able to record goofy stuff like this.
And you can go underwater as well.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not sure exactly how deep you can go, but you can go pretty far. So I was amazed. I mean, so one of the limitations is when you are like biking around with it, you do get a lot of vibration. I tried running vibration reduction in iMovie and in Premiere, and both had kind of mixed results. The frame rate gives it a little bit of trouble, but that's actually something I'm going to talk about in a second too. So let's go back to the world of the camera. So video formats. The GoPro can do a lot. So as I mentioned before, it can shoot 4K cinema footage. That's huge. Like this is 1080p, this green rectangle. This is like your standard high-def TV. 4K is that big, so it looks really beautiful. The drawback is it can only shoot that at 15 frames a second, which means it's going to be a little bit jittery. Usually, like, it's kind of a gimmick. The only real use I found for it is you can actually shoot footage at 15 frames a second and then double it in speed and get giant, beautiful, super fast video. And since the GoPro is for people who like to go fast anyway, I don't mind that too much. I get a big kick out of it. But at the same time, you can also really slow down. When you're shooting at 720p, you can go up to 120 frames a second. So that lets you not quite freeze motion, but slow things down to about a quarter of their real speed. So you can see guys on motorcycles floating through the air. You know, I mean, I saw a guy hook one of these things onto a wrecking ball and have his friends slam it into a building. And it held up. He didn't actually slam the camera into the building. He just had it on the chain. But you can, like, it's not something, like I said, it's not something that you'd want to shoot your home movie on necessarily, but it lets you really run wild with your imagination. And it works really well for sort of incorporating into a bigger workflow. Like if you're making a movie that has some kind of action scene in it, throwing the GoPro shots in will really take it from like cool to amazing. But it doesn't just shoot video either. So one of the things that I really liked about it was it lets you do, it works as a still camera and it lets you do burst shooting and time-lapse photography. So let me show you how that works. So these are examples of burst shooting. So that's 10 photos in a second. And what they've done is they've just combined those photos into a single frame for each of these images, which is a really cool way to show single motions. So the different modes of the camera are just accessed by, it's only got 3 buttons, basically. You can switch modes by pushing this one, you know, so you can put it in video, still, burst, slow motion. It's a little bit hard to see because it's so small, but, and then you just push the big red button to record. So, you know, I think now, yeah, now it's recording, now it's stopped. I've taken a picture. I've just taken 30 pictures. It's got a remarkable ability to, and you know, the thing is, there's no screen on the back of this camera, so you don't get the immediate feedback that you would expect with another digital camera. And that's one of the shortcomings of it, is you can't really experience it the same way you do with other cameras. You know, a lot of the time, you know, I found this thing sitting up on my head, but I shot whole bike rides where it was pointed down at the ground and it was unusable. Like, there's really not much feedback. You just kind of have to throw yourself out there and guess. And the other thing is battery life. I mean, like I said, even with all this, you can shoot for an hour and a half, and that's it, and then you're done. And so, you know, we went and we got like a 64 gig SD card for it. And by the way, it's pretty impressive. This can hold like 30 hours of footage from this thing. It's the size of a fingernail. But that doesn't do you a whole lot of good when you're only working with an hour and a half. And so what you know, if I were trying to shoot a lot of footage with this, what I'd probably want to wind up doing is having a few of these battery packs, a few spare batteries, or maybe even a few GoPros. Like, as it stands, the technology is such that you can really only take it out for a quick session. Like, you can't use this all day unless you have your computer with you. You also couldn't really take this on a trip and expect to get much more than whatever, you know, you wouldn't want to take this out into the desert unless you had a big car battery in your backpack, because eventually you're going to run out of juice. The sound quality of it is also not great. And to a certain extent, this doesn't matter because the sort of stuff you're using it for mostly is going to be stuff where the wind's just going to be shooting by you. And it gets a lot worse when it's in this case. Like, you know, I mean, what are you going to do? You can't hear it through a plastic box. So that's a limitation if you want to be able to shoot an interview with it. Not so much of a problem if you're just trying to make exciting looking videos.
Although, Nick, you would use an external microphone for most video cameras anyway.
This is, I mean, yeah, for professional quality video, you want to be using something else. What I found works is carrying around one of the Zoom recorders that the lab has. You can record audio on the Zoom, record video on the GoPro, and combine the two later. And that's usually what I do with a camcorder anyway. It's, you know, it's just part of life. Whereas with other video cameras, you can at least sort of settle for the audio that comes out of it. With this, I wouldn't. And the other thing that's just a little bit of a problem for it is that the firmware isn't perfect yet. Like this is still, and I mean with all of these problems, like it's really evident, this is still kind of a product that's in development. It's awesome, it's remarkable, but it's not, like sometimes when you charge it, it just won't work until you pull out the battery and put it back in. Sometimes it overheats, and once it overheats, it just won't work for a little bit. And these are problems that are well documented. These are problems that the team is working on, but for now, they're just sort of problems that you have to live with. And so that's sort of what keeps this from being, it's more of a gadget than it is like a full-featured camera. I wouldn't want this to be my only still camera or my only camcorder. But it is a really awesome part of my arsenal. And I already talked to you about the issue of the screen. Although I'm going to show you a workaround for that in a second. But I just want to show you, as an example of the kind of audio you can get from it, this is some footage that one of our student workers, Dylan, shot yesterday at Heyday. He actually had it mounted inside of his hat. Those like weird styrofoam hats that they wear.
That's him, right?
Yep, that's Dylan. And he was shooting. See, he was shooting with a DSLR while he was recording on this thing. It's impressive that it's so non-interruptive that you can be shooting with two cameras at the same time and not even notice.
So how did he know he was aimed, he had the camera aimed in the right direction?
Let me show you. So it takes a second to set up, but it's really no worse than a tripod, and it's a little bit more adaptable. So, like, right now I can tell this is not pointed the right way. So one of the things that helps with the GoPro is that it has, and you can see this around the edges, it's got an extraordinarily wide-angle lens. If I put my hands here, it'll see my hands. So you can kind of improvise. Like, I could see, I'm pretty sure that if I had turned it on right now, I'd get everyone in the room except for maybe you. I'd get Dave, I'd get Anu, I'd get the beautiful paintings and the projector. So that makes it, I mean, like, if you look, like, he's got his camera up here, he's shooting down here, and you can see his lens.
There's a cameo appearance I was going out here.
Oh.
That's a scary meta. Yeah.
But just to practice, he knows he's getting the heads and not the feet.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, I mean, part of it is just like, as you're doing it, you find yourself like catching your reflection in the mirror and making sure it's pointed the right way. You get a feel for it. But it's really just, I mean, in the same way that when you get used to shooting with a DSLR, you start to get to the point where you don't actually have to look through the viewfinder. It really relies on, but helps develop a sense of where the camera is pointed. And like at a certain point, as I was biking with this thing on my head, I found myself like sort of trying to do nice tracking shots and like looking down the street for a little bit longer. You know.
But like right now, it looks like it's. You know,
yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, it's pointed this way, but it gets
more.
It's such a wide field of vision. You can tighten it down, like you can set it to be really target specific. But I haven't found a lot of use for that, just because it is more of a gamble. I mean, if you have it mounted on something like a bicycle or a car, where you know exactly where it's going to be pointed. then that's okay. But otherwise, I'm usually pretty comfortable with the wide angle. But there is a third way.
You sound like Marco Pale, that's what I said. But wait, there's more.
There totally is. No, that's this thing is wild.
And it only arrived, was it a week ago?
Yeah, no, I've gone mad for this thing.
Just so you all know, we didn't know it was going to get here at a time. Put
So
it
let
on
me see
the
if I can
session
find
and hoped it would arrive at time. Excited.
So the thing that's really weird about this is it's actually its own portable Wi-Fi hotspot. Now, it's not a hotspot that you can use to get online. Instead, what it does is when I push this little tiny button on the side, this blue light starts glowing. And now it's emitting a Wi-Fi signal, which I think I should be able to connect to. So let's try this. So there we go. That's the Digital Media Lab GoPro. It should connect to it. All right. We're rocking and rolling. So now I'm going to fire up the GoPro app. Let me just put this thing back on. You're not supported. Are you kidding? Oh, well, that's too bad. Let me see. It did work a second ago. Oh. Let's go back and try reloading. All right, it is connected. Okay, there we go. So, let's see if I can get it to stand up. Huh. Why not? Okay, so it's slightly idiosyncratic, but as you can see here, I see you and you see me. It's really low res preview, which is honestly a good thing because trying to send as much bandwidth as it carries across the airwaves would be kind of a drag. But and I haven't actually tested the range yet, so let's take a look.
So you have to be close to the...
Well, it's Wi-Fi. So, yeah, so you don't have the same, and that's actually something that's nice about it is that you could set up your computer way over there and then, I don't know, jump over a mountain over here or something. So I can at least, let's see when you go outside.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
That's a little eerie.
This is seriously.
You can get artists to put on your cat or dog with these things. Oh, Caitlin just had a moment there.
It's small enough for a cat. I wouldn't put it on a kitten or a bird. Maybe a falcon.
Did you hook that to your phone then?
Oh yeah. So let's see if I can get my phone to talk to it at the same time.
At the same time.
It's a shot.
It shouldn't be a problem if it's just reading what's already in the air. Not.
Come on. I have an especially cranky phone.
You were home. It's gonna be.
Okay, so all right. Okay, so I think my phone's getting it too. I'm curious what happens if both of them try to control it. Oh, it looks like this is cut out while this one is started.
So what kind of control do you have over it?
Oh, I'll show you. Oh, you know what? I think I see what the problem is. I think the battery might have. Could the battery already be dead?
Battery looks like it's charged.
All right. Well, so this is. I'm just going to see if I can try and get it to show vertical video again, because this. All right, everyone turn your head sideways. So you can control from here, you can control the resolution, you can control the frame rate that it's shooting at. So if I go a little bit lower with the resolution, I can.
Orientation lock on? Yeah.
How do you turn that off?
And weapon on the side, possibly the mute switch.
Oh. Yes!
Yeah.
Yes! Okay, so you can control what mode it's shooting in. Let's see. Yeah, you can switch modes just by hitting these 4 buttons across the bottom. So I can choose cinema, still picture, burst mode, or time lapse. I'm not sure what kind of situation would involve shooting time lapse photography while you're carrying an iPad with a GoPro on your head, but dare to dream big. You can also, one of the things that I think is great, just because of the kind of goofball I am, is the big locate camera button. When I push it, it just makes the camera start beeping. So if you like dropped it into the couch while shooting it across the room, you can find it. Or you can
tap out of it.
Or you can walk around annoying people.
So could you use your phone if it's not connected to the iPad? Could it
Yeah.
just be the phone?
Yeah, and it's pretty much the same interface.
You have all that like a remote.
Yeah, and this is it works for iPads, it works for any iDevice, it works for any Android device, I think. Some of the Android devices have trouble with the preview because their video format settings are weird, but mostly it's pretty well supported. Like I'm a diehard Android user, and I pair it with this thing. If you don't have any i/tablet type device, there's also this remote control, which also connects via Wi-Fi. And you can take a look. Like it just has the same 2 buttons. It has the on and off button, which is also the change modes button, and the record button. So you can walk around with this thing. I mean, you could have this strapped to your back and just be controlling it with the remote, which would probably just be ominous, but who knows?
But with your phone, you could actually see what you're recording,
yeah, you
right?
can, and that's what's really important is you get the preview on both the iPad and the phone, and you can go. It's actually a lot easier to go through the menus on these than it is with this, because that's one of the other drawbacks is to change through the menus. You just have to keep pushing this button over and over. But you know, it does work. So that's pretty much the miracle of the GoPro.
Very entertaining. It costs $300 depending on what version you get.
Yeah.
So, we'll be getting this one.
Yeah. Oh, and that's one thing. This is like the Ultra Super Pro Hero 3 Black. It has the Wi-Fi and all of the extras. Some of the less expensive versions like don't have the Wi-Fi or lack some of the other capabilities, I think. Yeah, they don't, and some of these gadgets, like a lot of these gadgets don't come with it. I think we had to purchase the head and the chest strap separately. But, you know, it's like a good bit of kit, and it's nice that you can combine it the way you can. So I'm a huge fan.
Thank you, Nick. It's a lovely way to end the Gadget.
Yeah, this is great.
Very exciting. It puts a mark on your head.
It's worth
So does
it.
cycling some days.
So would you recommend waiting until they get some of the bugs
Well, I mean, ultimately, like it's going to keep pretty much like it's had bugs from the beginning to an extent, but it doesn't interfere as much as like it's more than anything else. I think what interferes with being able to use it as like seamlessly as I like is just the battery life issue. And that's something that's true of my iPad and my phone too. Like, we just need better batteries in the world. Like the bugs come up sometimes, but they're the sort of technical glitches that like usually, like the one that's most frequent is just like when you charge it for a while, sometimes you need to pull the battery out and put it back in. Once you get used to it, like it's pretty much seamless. It's just a little bit of a peculiarity. I'd say what I'd recommend, honestly, is since the lab's already got it, I would say just check it out from the lab a few times, see if you like it. If it's something that you could fit into your life, go for it. If not, at least you can play with it once in a while, because that's what I plan to do.